Book on the Thom Hartmann Book Report today, or Book Club today, is Cuban Women Confront the Future. It's an interview with Vilma Espin. Vilma Espin was the president of the Federation of Cuban Women since its founding in 1960, and was the chair of the Commission for Social Prevention and president of the Infancy Institute and the International Federation of Democratic Women. And it's a long-form interview, actually, the book. So the first question: what does socialism mean in the lives of a Cuban family, and in particular, Cuban woman? Vilma Espin. For the Cuban family, especially the woman, socialism has meant an enormous improvement to the quality of life and personal development. We should remember that until January 1st, 1959, in our country, hunger, poverty, exploitation, repression, and dependence reigned. The revolution opened up new horizons in the economic, political, and social fields, and amongst its key principles is the defense of equal rights for all human beings. The constant struggle to make ends meet disappeared, and with it the antagonism between people competing for the crumbs that could help them escape the tragic destiny that awaited the majority. Thus the family, the basic cell of society, could develop in a rounded way. Our revolution assured all Cubans the chance to exercise each one of their inalienable rights. Each citizen is assured that food prices are reasonable and that education and medical services are free. The state makes a systemic effort to improve living standards to the extent that it is permitted by the tense battle for development that we wage under blockade and constant imperialist threats. Child care facilities have been created to provide care for the children of tens of thousands of working women from the age of 3 months to 6 years. Services to lighten domestic work have been created. Hundreds of thousands of students have also received free lunch at day school and all their meals at boarding school. Hundreds of thousands of workers also receive their meals at a moderate price in their workplace. More industrial laundries and dry cleaners have been established, and more domestic labor-saving devices are available with preference in acquisition and cheaper prices for workers. Huge resources are dedicated to housing construction in urban and rural zones. We also try to guarantee recreational facilities and spiritual enjoyment to all the population. Of course, the possibilities are exciting, but also what we have achieved to date, considering our limitations, is already vastly superior to what families experienced in the past. Social Security provides an income for those who cannot work. As far as women are concerned, equal rights have certainly changed their position in the family and in society. A woman's participation in social production, because it implies her financial independence, has altered her dependent position in the marriage and allowed a change in her ideas, in the way she looks at life. The laws that govern family relations, such as the Family Code, are based on equality and guarantee the right of members of the family to participate in society, to work, study, and to responsibly educate the children in line with our revolutionary principles. This does not mean that we achieved all that we aspire to. We still have problems of a material nature to resolve, which are directly related to our economic development. There is still the need to eliminate backward ideas that some people hold, men and women, with respect to the role that each person should play within the home, the nature of the socialist family and the relationship between a couple, ideas which work against the full participation of women in the building of a new society. Obviously, the economic security guaranteed by both men and women having access to work, free health care, and education, the obvious satisfaction and confidence in oneself that equal opportunity and the chance to fully develop to the extent of one's talents, intelligence, and aptitude offer to each person, the constant motivation and emotional stability that comes from feeling useful, recognized, and dignified as a human being. Everything that socialism has brought to us undoubtedly fulfills the deepest desires of a family, particularly the woman, who until just a quarter century ago was exploited, oppressed, and marginalized in the family and in society. Question: what is the primary concern in Cuba, work or the human being? What place do women occupy within this concern? Vilma Espin. In Cuba, a country that is building socialism, the highest aim is human happiness, based on respect for the fundamental human rights of each person. That includes full social equality to education, healthcare, work, and professional training, with the chance to employ all of one's faculties to take an active role in society and to help develop that society, to create the material and spiritual basis for a full, harmonious life, where the highest qualities of both men and women flourish. To reach those aspirations requires work, talent, dedication, and willingness from everybody, It requires constant scientific and technological innovation to assure economic and social development. Thus, each member of our society, along with the right to work and all the benefits brought by the revolution, has acquired the duty to help create the economic basis necessary for such advantages. The building of a new society and the fulfillment of new aspirations could not possibly be achieved except on the basis of work and the willingness of the whole population. And the people work with enthusiasm because work is the means for creating wealth and goods for all to enjoy. Work that is free from exploitation does require a new dimension, a quality that stimulates and produces satisfaction. To feel that you are useful and are creating your destiny, to project yourselves toward the future through your work, to cultivate the future. In a speech in January 1964, Che Guevara said that when each Cuban viewed work as a vital expression of their human creativity, technology, technique, and inventions would proceed apace, and all would participate with an uncontainable force in building the new society. The book, Cuban Women Confront the Future by Vilma Espin.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Hey, happy Friday, TGIF, Shabbat Shalom, Juma Mubarak, whatever it may be for you. I hope it's a wonderful end of the week. Hang on just a minute here. There we go. My microphone fell off. Anyhow, here we are, and it's going to be a great Friday. It's not going to be such a great Monday, though. We have daylight savings time this weekend. And so we're all going to be tired because we lose an hour of sleep. Saturday night, Sunday night? Saturday night, I guess it is. Sunday morning. And why don't we do something about this? I mean, we've got, obviously we have bigger health emergencies, but every year in the spring, when everybody loses an hour of sleep, the hospital emergency rooms report that car accidents go up, fatalities from car accidents go up, and heart attacks go up because people get an hour's less sleep. It's like jet lag, and jet lag, for people who are vulnerable, who have a little bit of heart disease or whatever, boom, it's not good stuff. So anyway, enough of my rant on that. It's Anything Goes Friday, by the way. We're taking your calls on whatever's on your mind today, and I will get to your calls in just a few minutes. There are a few things I wanted to share with you, though, that I think are real and problematic. The Trump administration last month issued their budget, which, if it's accepted by Congress, would take effect in October of this year, which is when the next fiscal year begins. And it would cut the CDC's budget by 15%. It would cut the Department of Health and Human Services by 10%. It would cut 53% of our funding to the World Health Organization and 75% cut to the Pan American Health Organization, which is North, Central, and South America. Brilliant stuff. Meanwhile, a local TV station, this is KCTV in Fairway, Kansas, decided that they would see if Kansas and Missouri have COVID-19 testing kits, right? Hey, what's the situation here in Kansas and Missouri? So on Thursday, KCTV5 News made multiple phone calls to health department agencies. And what they found was, the KCTV's Abigail James spoke to the health departments for Johnson County, Johnson County, and Kansas County, and Kansas City. For Missouri, the entire state is going to be allowed by the Trump administration to have a maximum of 5 kits, and they have not yet arrived. Yeah, seriously. On TV this morning, we had a whole press conference with Trump and Alex Azar, and Azar is going, hey, next week we're going to have 75,000 testing kits. Where are they going to go? Well, 5 of them are going to go to the state of Missouri. Maybe next week. They found that when they finally are available, that, quote, larger cities will get a total of 5 kits, smaller cities will get a total of 2 kits. Each kit, of course, can only be used for 1 patient. The Kansas City Health Department said they'll be receiving their 5 kits very soon. Isn't that exciting news? Meanwhile, you've got 2,500 passengers. Trump this morning was saying 5,000. It's 2,500 passengers and in the neighborhood of 1,000 crew members on this Grand Princess ship off the coast of California. This is the, sadly for Princess Cruise Lines, this is the second cruise ship that has gotten the coronavirus, and they were both Princess Cruise Lines. The other one was stuck in Yokohama in Japan for a while. But at least 21 people, 11 passengers and 10 crew members, are already showing symptoms of having an active case of this disease. And keep in mind, you can be contagious for up to 2 weeks before you show any symptoms. And so the CDC or the Trump administration or whatever, they airdropped using a helicopter test kits onto this cruise ship. Now, you'd expect that they would drop, 3,500 test kits, right? Because there's roughly 3,500 people on the cruise ship, 2,500 passengers and around 1,100 crew. But no, they only dropped 150. I think it was 154, 145, something like that. Certainly fewer than 200 test kits. Why? Well, because, the Trump administration only had 4 months to get ready for this. I mean, they've been testing people in China since January, since December. They've been, South Korea has done 200,000 tests. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. It's just mind-boggling. Okay, daylight savings time. I already did that rant. Community clinics. This is an amazing story. You need to know about this, and you need to be calling your members of Congress about this at 202-225-3121. There are 11,000 community health centers across the United States. These are local facilities. One of my kids worked in one of these places for a year or so while she was working on her physician's assistant, completing college and getting her license and all that stuff. And and the one here in Portland that she worked at serves the homeless people, serves the homeless population. And there are 11,000 of these across the country. They serve 29 million people every year. And they are only there because that was the cost of Bernie Sanders' vote for the Obamacare program. He said, you will fund at least 10,000 health clinics across the country, or I won't vote for the Obamacare program. And Obama put this into the bill. The problem was it was only funded for a couple of years. And it's going to run out soon. The clinics are currently staring over a fiscal cliff. This is from Michael Ludwig over at TruthOut. On May 22nd, a stopgap measure temporarily extended federal funding to community health centers. If lawmakers don't act before this deadline of May 22nd, these things could disappear. As was put into the 2010 Affordable Care Act legislation, in 2018, Congress extended the funding for 2 years to 2020. So it's been covered for 10 years. And progressives in Congress are asking to extend the funding for 5 years. Why not make it permanent? I mean, this is your front line against coronavirus. One of the most vulnerable populations out there are homeless people. People who have, very little access to health care, and these community health centers are basically it. And then, low-wage people, the other very vulnerable population are low-wage people in the gig economy who are working, but are working without any kind of benefits. They have no health insurance. What do? Well, they go to these community health centers. Meanwhile, 2019, last year, was the worst year ever for closing rural hospitals. Why? Because Medicaid expansion keeps rural hospitals open, and states like Texas have refused Medicaid expansion. There are 453 rural hospitals across the United States right now that are on the edge of closing. 19 shut down last year. Between 2016 and 2017, 34 hospitals shut down. Since 2010, since the Affordable Care Act was passed, 120 rural hospitals have closed, with Texas, Tennessee, and Oklahoma leading the way. All of these in states that have refused Medicaid expansion, where Republicans don't want people to have health insurance. Meanwhile, the Australian National University did some computer modeling based on the Spanish flu epidemic, which was their most severe epidemic model. They say the death toll from this coronavirus would be 68 million people worldwide. Best case scenario, which is if we start aggressive testing and quarantining people who might have been exposed, and we can stop this, or at least slow it down substantially. Best case, 15 million people die around the world. And that was their study. So, of course, CNBC's Rick Santelli. Remember Rick Santelli back in 2008 when the stock market was starting to collapse? Rick Santelli went on TV and he said, this is because of Jimmy Carter's law against redlining, that, you know, he was forcing banks to loan to people in communities that had been redlined previously. And he said, you know, people don't have a right to a mortgage. We need a Tea Party in America. Remember that? He said, we need a Tea Party. It was Rick Santelli. He's the guy who kicked off the Tea Party with his rant on CNBC that went viral. Well, he's got a new rant. He says, maybe we'd be better off if we gave the coronavirus to everybody, and then in a month it would just be over, because the mortality rate probably isn't going to be any different if we did it that way than the long-term picture, but the difference is we're wreaking havoc on global and domestic economies. Now, first of all, number one, as time goes on, we will develop vaccines. As time goes on, we will figure out which of the dozen or so antiviral drugs out there in the marketplace actually work against this, because we're doing these tests and studies. South Korea is doing them. Japan is doing them. China is doing them. We're starting to get information. So the death rate will go down, but probably not for a year. Not until we've had an opportunity to really crunch the data. But Santelli says, oh my God, have you seen Delta's stock? I mean, he didn't literally say that, but I mean, that was the essence of what he was saying. So, yeah, so, you know, 10 million Americans, 3.4% death rate, 10 million Americans die. You know, it'll get the stock market back to normal. Okay, I got a lot of other news here we'll get to as we go through the day. But, you know, actually, I'm going to hit a break right now. And when we come back from the break, I'll start picking up your phone calls. It's Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program. The insane incompetence of this administration is breathtaking. Trump has known for 5 months, 4 months anyway, for sure, that there was a good chance this virus was coming. And what did he do? He closed the viral pandemic departments in the Department of Homeland Security and the hang on just a second.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And the National Security Agency, and called for massive cuts in the budgets of all these agencies, including the Centers for Disease Control. Brilliant. We got a real brain here running our country. Okay, and welcome back. Let's see here. Tim in Rohnert Park, California. Hey, Tim, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, my big concern is that the environmental touters like Tom Steyer and Jay Inslee haven't said a thing about backing Bernie Sanders, who has the best rating in all the environmental groups. And I would just plead for them to, you know, say something. We need to get that back in the conversation.
Well, you can reach out to them. I mean, both of them, I'm sure Jay Inslee has a comment line. You know, you'd have to look it up, but, you know, State of Washington, it should be on their website. Okay. And who was the other person you were talking about?
Tom Steyer?
Tom Steyer, yeah. He's got a website, needtoimpeach.com or org. I think you can Google it, you know. And, you know, there's got to be a way to reach out to them. But, you know, what we're looking at right now is the fate and future of the Democratic Party and the insiders versus the outsiders. And I'm going to be ranting about that in the second hour of the program, so stick around for that. Thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you, Tim. Katie in Watsonville, California. Hey, Katie, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I have been a fan of yours for a very, very long time. I am a hunter. I am a hunter.
Welcome to the tribe.
So is my son. Yes. And I was wondering if you know anything about aphantasia. Have you ever heard of that?
Aphantasia?
Yes. It's the lack of the mind's eye.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I haven't. You know, I know what aphasia is, or aphasia, which is, you know, but anyway, back to you. Go ahead.
Close your eyes, picture a beach.
Okay.
You see something, right? I don't have that.
Sort of. Yeah, I don't see anything either. I see the inside of my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I see the inside of my eyes, Tom. So you might have the same exact thing. Some of us don't have a mind's eye. I always thought counting sheep was a metaphor,
right?
But people actually see sheep in their head when they're counting it.
I learned that from NLP. I mean, this is one of the things you do these NLP exercises with people, and you say, remember an experience or picture this or whatever. And but what's interesting is if somebody's doing NLP on me, or if I'm doing it on myself. But if somebody, if I'm working with somebody and they say, remember a time when you had a really bad experience. And I'll remember that time in 8th grade when my redheaded 8th grade English teacher called me a plagiarist in front of the whole room. I can still remember that. Now I can close my eyes and I'm only seeing the inside of my eyes. But if
it's more as a list, right?
But if somebody tells me to pull up that picture, even though I can't see it, I can tell something's going on, and if they say push it away and make the color go away and turn it black and white, that actually happens, and my emotional feelings about the picture actually diminish. So even though I apparently have aphantasia, I can still work with those pictures, even though I don't visually see them. Some part of my mind is still seeing them. Say what?
I think it comes in a spectrum because I don't have any, and I went and got tested because I was very curious. I got my neuropsych eval, and it was saying I was down around the 7th percentile in visual working memory, and that just it opened up my eyes, made going back to college a lot easier because now I know what to work with. But I was just wondering if you had heard of it, or because I really admire your work on the hunter farmer stuff.
Is it APHANTASIA? Cool.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Katie. You've set me off on a new hunt. My homework for this afternoon.
Maybe I'll have a book about it.
Okay, there you go. Great. Have you read Walking Your Blues Away, by the way?
Not yet.
That book talks about this technology and all this kind of stuff. I think you'll find it fascinating. It's just a little book. It's fascinating.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Good talking to you. We'll be right back. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, 22 minutes past the hour. And Omar in Herndon, Virginia. Hey, Omar. What's up?
Hey, Tom. How you doing? Good
Fine.
to see you, sir. Good. I was just calling you because, just for disclosure, I'm a Elizabeth Warren supporter, but I was a little bit disturbed by the Rachel Maddow interview. I think it was borderline disrespect because
her interview with Warren or her interview with Sanders? She did Warren last night, Sanders night before last.
With Sanders, basically,
Okay.
with Bernie Sanders. I just think that the constant pointing of you have not increased any base since 2016. It was just not appropriate at all. I mean, and I think she owed him an apology. And in my opinion, MSNBC does not want Bernie to be elected. This is just not a Chris Matthews thing. Even Lawrence O'Donnell just toppled on, and he basically rebroadcast all Rachel Maddow interview in his show. So I think it was just not appropriate. That's just my opinion. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Tom, are we in the verge of basically seeing the crash of 2016 that you talked about? Because if you look at the global economy, it's kind of starting to catch a fever right now, and I think the policy that Barack Obama had in place kind of sustained everything, but now they've been undone by Trump. We kind of accelerating toward the 2016 crash that you talked about, and I'm taking us off the phone.
Sure. Yeah. No, Omar, I think we are, and I think that we're seeing. And in that book, I said, here's how it sets up. Here's how it happens. And my prediction was that it was going to happen by 2016. I think in 2016 that was around the time that the Fed really started intervening in a big way on a continuing basis, because the expectation was that was when the Fed would start unwinding all the stimulus that they had done in 2008 and 2009. And of course, they just kept doing it. And now, and so the bottom line is what's happened since 2008, 2009 is that we didn't really put the economy back together. What we did is we inflated an air mattress under it by lowering interest rates down to the point where they're gibberish. And this is not good for an economy. It's basically, and by the way, we weren't the only country that did this. The European Central Bank is doing the same thing. The Japanese Central Bank is doing the same thing. So the South Korean Central Bank is doing the same thing. And using exclusively or largely exclusively what's called monetary policy, that is what the Fed can do, adjusting interest rates, buying and selling bonds, putting money into or taking money out of the economy, is not the way that you bring an economy back from bad times. Franklin Roosevelt put the economy back together with very little help from the Fed. In fact, the Fed really didn't know what they were doing back in the 1930s. Arguably, they exacerbated the Great Depression. But he put it back together using what's called fiscal policy as opposed to monetary policy. Monetary policy is where you change the velocity or amount of money flowing through the economy by adjusting interest rates principally and by buying and selling bonds. Fiscal policy is where Congress borrows or raises taxes but appropriates money and then spends that money into the economy, which is what FDR did. He put 1 million people to work planting trees. It not only ended the Dust Bowl, it also ended the unemployment crisis. That was the Civilian Conservation Corps. He put another 1 million people to work building, the Hoover Dam and the Tennessee Valley Authority and all these, and bridges and hospitals and schools all over America. That was called the Works Progress Administration, the WPA. And that kind of fiscal policy is absolutely necessary to put an economy back together, and we have not been doing that. There was about $300 billion of that kind of stimulus built into the stimulus bill, that $900 billion stimulus bill, 300 billion of which was tax cuts for rich people. That was the price that the Republicans demanded to Obama to pass that thing, that stimulus bill. But it really it just reinflated the economy, and now what has happened is we've got this black swan event. We've got the coronavirus. It is crashing both demand and supply. Whether you're a Keynesian demand side economic perspective, or whether you're a Reaganist supply side economic. If supplies are breaking down, supply chains are breaking down, and you can't get an iPhone because they can't get parts. Or if the demand side is breaking down, people aren't going out and buying things because they're sheltering at home, trying to avoid going out and getting sick. In either case, you can't do anything about that by adjusting interest rates, and that's why the stock market is going down and why probably it's going to continue to.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
We got a one-day bounce from a half a point interest rate cut. Which is huge, but not much bounce. Happy Friday. Let's call this $5 Friday. If you can make a $5 contribution every month. I'll get back to that in just a second. But today is Louise's birthday. Don't tell her I told you. And it got us thinking, actually, about her birthday. Two of our kids, one is a nurse practitioner, the other is a physician's assistant, and they're both primary health care people. They're both, working in one works in a hospital and the other works in a doctor's office. And we were going to have Louise's birthday party at a local Ethiopian restaurant because it's our favorite food as a family. And we just decided there's 3 cases of coronavirus now in Portland. And they announced on Oregon Public Broadcasting this morning that they can't do testing of anybody who is not already hospitalized because there are so few kits that the Trump administration has given to the state that they literally don't have enough. But they think that there's between 300 and 1,500 cases of coronavirus floating around inside Portland right now. So, my 2 daughters, who are the public health people, started this chain in text message saying to all of us, the whole family, let's not meet at a restaurant or any public place. Let's all meet at one of our kids' houses and do a potluck, which is what we're going to do tonight for Louise's birthday, which then got me thinking. In fact, I talked to Louise about it this morning. Netflix and Hulu and companies like that, their stock is probably going to go up over time. Because what do people do when they're staying at home? They watch Netflix and stuff like that, which then got me thinking, most of us, many of us anyway, we're paying for cable TV or we're paying for satellite TV. We may be paying for a special for another, extra little bit on that to get, things like Netflix or Apple, Amazon Prime, whatever it may be. Those are typically $7 a month, $8 a month, $10 a month, $12 a month. If you think that's a reasonable cost for entertainment, isn't it a reasonable cost to send in $5 a month to keep Free Speech TV on the air? So, as a happy birthday to Louise, and as doing our civic duty here, helping keep good, progressive, high-quality progressive programming on the air, and keeping this show going and keeping this network going, please consider right now calling 877-378-8669 and committing on $5 Friday to $5 a month. Just have them ding your credit card until you tell them to stop. It will be such a good thing. It's not an immediate burst of money for Free Speech TV, although, maybe lots and lots of people will do this, but probably not. It's not going to be like millions of dollars, but it'll be thousands, and it adds up, and it's a big deal. So please consider calling now. If you want to give more than $5, there are a bunch of premiums. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the car magnet, sort of like a bumper sticker that says, I'm voting, are you? And also has the Free Speech TV logo on it. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, you get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. With a $120 gift, we've got 3 options. One is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, brand new book just out. The second is the Just Effing Vote t-shirt in the size of your choice. And the third option is the Free Speech TV t-shirt. Ask me about Free Speech TV. Any one of those 3 things, your choice for a $120 gift today. With a $240 gift, we get the coronavirus free. You can't transmit, there are viruses that go over the internet, but they're not this kind of virus, right? With $240, you get the virtual meet and greet, where we will get together online, hang out, have an off-the-record conversation. With a $300 gift, you've got the official Free Speech TV Get Out the Vote pack that has a bunch of postcards that you can send to friends and family, introducing them to various programs on Free Speech TV. You get the car magnet, the bumper sticker kind of thing that says, encourages people to vote. I'm voting, are you? The Just Effing Vote tote bag, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which is a pretty important book right now, by the way, and you're going to want to read it, and you're going to want to share it with your friends. And with a $360 gift, you get the complete Hidden History book set of all 3 of the Hidden History books that are out right now, all autographed by the author. That would be me. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and suitable for gifts or whatever you'd like. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland. We're probably going to be scheduling these things a few months down the road when things settle down and we've got enough testing kits here in the state that we can figure out what's going on, and as our airports start to recover, when things get under control. But you can get in line for that right now with a $1,000 gift, because things will return to normal, I think, probably by the late summer. So anyhow, call now, 877-378-8669, and say happy birthday to Louise. Thanks. Coming up this week on The Science Revolution, is the coronavirus about to show us the cost of not having Medicare for all? Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter, public health professor at George Washington University Medical School Dr. Lena Wen, and author of The Coming Plague, Lori Garrett, all join me for the most up-to-date information on the now pandemic coronavirus. Don't miss it, and check it out wherever fine podcasts are available. So, welcome back. Oh, here we go. Welcome back. So the federal government just released the February jobs reports, and there were 273,000 jobs added in February, which seems like good news, right? You'd think the stock market would be going up, but right now the Dow's down about 600 points. The New York Times notes that investors are rushing to the safety of government bonds, and oil prices are nosediving. Why? Because everybody's expecting a worldwide recession, and they note, and this is verbatim from today's New York Times, an article that just went up about this drop in the market on the front page. Such a stark drop. They're talking about the bond yield. The 10-year note is now yielding 0.68%. As more people want to buy bonds, the amount of money that bonds pay goes down. It sounds backwards, but just trust me, that's how it works. When there's more demand for bonds, bonds have lower yields. In other words, they pay less. They're paying less than 1% now, 6.68%, almost 0.7%. Such a stark drop reflects near panic, analysts said, given that there was very little news overnight. And, but even with the February jobs data, it wasn't enough. And Trump signed his $8 billion, okay, we're going to do something bill today, but, what are we going to do? We don't know. Mike Pence is in charge of this, and he's maybe he's going to pray it away. I don't know, but it's not a good time. Eric in Brookings, Oregon. Hey, Eric, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good morning, Tom.
Hey.
Long-time listener here, first time calling you.
Oh, thank you, Eric.
Used to listen to you back in Portland some years ago, and I was surprised to hear you on the air in Eureka, California. We get it over the air.
Oh, yeah, we've been on KGOE for 12 years, I think, maybe longer than that.
Yeah, they're good folks down there. Well, it comes in loud and clear, so I was very surprised when we moved here to hear you on the air again, and we actually go way back. We have a connection. We're about the same age, and I grew up in East Lansing, Michigan, believe it or not.
That's where Louise grew up. So
and I went to MSU.
Yeah.
And apparently you did also?
Briefly. Yes.
Yeah.
Briefly.
Okay. Well, I love hearing your references to Okemos and East Lansing, and I've heard some of your little stories, like working at Bob's Big Boy and
Yep.
And a little bit of WITL.
Yep. There you go. So anyhow, Eric, we're boring everybody to death with the old time stuff here. Let's get right to the issues.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, and I actually worked at Whittle for a short period DJing there as well. But anyway,
did you know Bob Brakeman?
What's that?
Did you know Bob Brakeman, the news director?
No, I didn't. I just worked there for a short period of time, but no, I don't remember that name. But
okay. Anyway,
actually, it sounds a little familiar. But listen to WKAR, Michigan State and stuff. But anyway, what I wanted to talk to you about is I think very, very important, and it's the fact that nobody will talk about the Electoral College. And I hardly ever hear any mention of it, and it's the reason why I don't know why Democrats are not talking about this. But two of the last three presidents have been absolute disasters. Were elected with, as you know, the minority of the vote. They've been sworn in with less votes than their opponent.
Right.
And, of course, we're talking about Al Gore and Hillary Clinton should have been president. Six out of the last seven elections, the Democrats have won the popular vote, but somehow that doesn't get translated into actual power.
Correct.
And what I want to know is, and even Hillary Clinton, Tom, was on. Did you happen to see her on Jimmy Fallon the other night? It was a great interview.
I did not, no. Sorry.
Okay. She was on just a couple nights ago, and she will barely talk about it. I mean, she might mention winning by 3 million votes, but you'd think that would immediately segue into some kind of discussion about how unfair it is and how
Well, here's the bottom line, Eric. There's only two ways to do away with the Electoral College. The first is to amend the Constitution. The last time we tried that was, I think it was 72 or 74, when Birch Bayh, the senator from Indiana, led the charge. It requires 2/3 vote in the House, 2/3 vote in the Senate, and 3/4 of the states to ratify it. 3/4 of the states probably would have ratified it. Back then, there was bipartisan disgust with it, and they got their 2/3 vote in the House. He was 2 votes short in the Senate, and it was Republicans who were holding out. Now Republicans are now that they've gotten 2 presidents in the last 15 years or so, 20 years, the Republicans are completely committed to the Electoral College. So that ain't going to happen. There've been 27,000 attempts or 29,000 attempts to amend serious attempts to amend the Constitution since the founding of our republic, and we've got only 27 amendments. But the second way to do it is through what's called the National Popular Vote Compact. And if you go to nationalpopularvote.com, they'll tell you all about it. And basically what it is the Constitution does not say that electors have to vote for the candidate that the people who elected the electors. When you vote for president, you're not actually voting for president. You're voting for some person whose name's on the ballot who's an elector, who's then going to cast the vote in the Electoral College for the president. They don't have to vote for the person you told them to vote for. And in fact, I believe in every state, I could be wrong, there might be 1 or 2 exceptions to this, but I believe in every state, the state legislature can inform the electors who they must vote for. Florida, in the 2000 election, if the Florida recount happened, and if the Florida recount, this is the one that was ordered by the state Supreme Court under Florida law because the election was so close, if that recount had happened, and if that recount showed that Al Gore carried the state and therefore became president of the United States, Republicans in the Florida legislature had legislation ready to go that would say that Florida was going to throw their electoral votes to George W. Bush no matter what the outcome of the recount was. And it would have passed. It would have passed because the Florida legislature was Republican controlled and Jeb Bush was the governor. So the way it works here is if enough states to equal 270 votes, the number you need to become president, electoral votes, if enough states representing that number of electoral votes sign on to this, and right now they're in the neighborhood of 200, and Virginia just signed on to this, or just went through the legislative process. I don't know if they've officially signed on just a few weeks ago, which adds another 20 votes or something like that, but whatever it is. Well, but that's the only way to do it now, and which means that you've got to lean on your state governments. We've already here in Oregon, we're already a member of it.
Well, I know, Tom, we just recently, even Oregon was late to the party. We just did it about a year ago. It finally got through because Peter Courtney was holding it up for so long. But what I wanted to mention, though, is I know very well what you just said. And what I want to know, though, is and we only need 6 more states, Tom. And there's 6 states that are gettable. There's Minnesota. There's I think it's North Carolina. There's Ohio. And if the Democrats would just start talking about it, nothing gets done without a plan, and by not talking about it, the public doesn't know about this. Yeah. And you'd think that Hillary Clinton and Al Gore are the only people alive on this planet that knows what it's like to get more votes and not actually take the Oval Office. You'd think that one or two.
You're absolutely right. Right now, they're at the national. It has been enacted into law in 16 jurisdictions with 196 electoral votes. So if you're in one of these states, I'm going to read the list. You don't have to worry about it. Your state has already joined. But if you don't hear your state, then it's time to call your state representative, your state senator, and your governor's office and say, we want you to be part of the national popular vote. This calling your federal representatives, congressperson or senators, meaningless, but your state representatives. So the states that have signed on, it's a shorter list, are California, Colorado, they're alphabetical, California, Colorado, Connecticut, D.C., Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington State. Those are the states that have already signed on. So if you did not hear your state called, then go to nationalpopularvote.com. You can click on your state and get all the information you need on how to do this and who to contact and everything. Eric, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you, and I look forward to talking to you again one of these days. Jeff in San Francisco. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Well, talking about Michigan and the auto workers, it costs $1,500 more in Detroit to make a car than it does across the lake.
Well, back 10 years ago or so, when Toyota decided to put a factory in Canada instead of Michigan, they said it was $2,600 per car.
I'm going back to the 80s on this, probably. Okay. So, it's probably maybe $3,000. It's ridiculous, and it's because we don't have a national health care program.
That's right,
and they have to pick that up, and that would be people need to. Michiganers, and you're going to vote for should vote for the person who's talking about getting national health care.
Yeah.
Not the one who tried to get it, the one who, and I'm not going to name names, but we kind of know who that is.
I get what you're saying.
I'm not going to circular fire squad.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. But yes,
hint.
And I think no matter who we have as president, as long as it's a Democrat, we're going to move we're going to move very rapidly. And I think the coronavirus is the kick in the butt that we're all getting to do this. We're going to move very rapidly towards a national healthcare system that actually does work, and which, of course, means probably, almost certainly, a single-payer system like Medicare for all. Jeff, thanks for the call. It's great to hear from you there in San Francisco. Be safe. We'll be back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with more of the news of the day and your calls. It's Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Viagra for your brain. Just don't tell Limbaugh. He'll want some. And welcome back, Gregory in Hood River, Oregon. Hey, Gregory, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind? The state of our country. Give you one quick one. 13 years living down in Central America. Coming back and forth. I came back up here, been watching this back and forth all the time, commenting on Facebook. And I go back to one principle. I'm 68 years old. Think about your values and principles that you were taught when you were a kid. You know, you don't lie, you don't cheat, you don't steal. All of these things,
unless you're a Trump,
gelled up. But unless you're a person who realizes that you aren't accountable for anything that you say.
Right.
Okay, and we've got lots of Trumpites and all these other people. But let's go back to the core values. What's important? What's important for most people in America is family. Mm-hmm. And when you think about Central America and you think about the word muy importante, familia, it is the most important thing that we have to realize.
My family is the most important thing.
It is the family. The family is most important. But then you have to look in the bigger picture. Who are we? We are people living on this planet Earth that is now being destroyed because of fossil fuels. And we have to go back to one basis. What is important to us? Our family. First thing, the nucleus of our family. Second thing is the nucleus of the broader family, your neighbors and everybody connected together. Think of Central America. Think about the people that were leaving there. People, the right was saying, oh, these people are, they're terrorists or whatever. But if you think about them, think about this. Can you imagine living in a village or living in a small city where you had to take your children by your hand and walk 1,500 miles because you weren't safe because there was no food on the table? Think of a government that is falling apart in our country, which is the leader, that big shining light of democracy, that is falling apart and crumbling to corruption. Then flash forward and look back into Honduras. Honduras is backed by the United States government. It is a country that we spent $250 million dumping money down there, and there is no democracy. Rule of law, people go, well, what's rule of law? It's simple. We all know what it is if you think about the words. It's accountability. Down there, there is no accountability. In fact, Congress down there passed impunity laws. So let's flash forward and go back up to the United States. What's the most important thing for people to realize is this. There is no politics. Don't think left. Don't think right. Don't think Republican, Democrat. Think about your values. Think about your neighbor. Your neighbor doesn't make a difference if he's Republican or Democrat. It's about that family. It's about bringing back the sanity to our country that is important to everything in the world. Everything in the world. Because we are being looked at by the world and we're being mocked. We're being laughed at. And we've destabilized. And so how do we bring it back? The people in the United States need to sit down, let go of politics, and vote their conscience. Ask themselves, if you're Republican, Democrat, liberal, socialist, whatever your brand is, throw all that away. What is important to you? And is your government working for you?
So, Gregory,
and the answer is no. Go ahead.
I hear your call for nonpartisanship. But can you name for me one nationally elected, one federally elected Republican politician who actually reflects the values you're talking about?
They don't exist.
Yeah. So I think we cannot.
They don't exist.
We cannot ignore politics. I mean, I agree with you. And Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras. The Trump administration has cut aid to all those countries. The aid that might support emerging democracies. And yes, we have refugees coming from those countries, and they're treating them like they're terrorists and criminals, and they're being terrible things are happening to them in Mexico. But this is a partisan issue, frankly, Gregory. Gregory, thank you for the call. I get what you're saying. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Sasha in Kent, Washington. Hey, Sasha, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I think I may well have had the coronavirus infection, but I won't know because I can't get a test.
Oh, my. So the 90% of people who have the virus get either a high fever that's sustained for several days or a fever that spikes high, goes away, comes back and spikes high. And 80% of the people who get it have a non-productive, dry, painful cough. Non-productive mean nothing, snot doesn't come out, sputum.
That was the thing that got me. I thought, I'd been sick for weeks, and I thought, this flu, I'm not bouncing back the way I usually do, but I'm well over 60, so, And then when I heard the cough described, because this was different from any cough I'd ever had before, paroxysm of coughing and nothing coming out.
Right.
And but I can't get a test. It irritates me. And then Pence comes prancing into town, and I want to go to. I wouldn't go to a reporter's press conference, but I want to stand up in a press conference and say, "You guys are wrong. The incidence is 18%," and they'll say, no, it's not. And I say, you don't know. You can't prove it because you're not doing any tests.
That's right.
It's like they don't want to control the disease. They want to control the message. I know. It's don't ask, don't tell. That's what we've got.
Yeah, and Sean, my executive producer, who's sitting right here with me, you heard from, was it your sister-in-law you said, or your stepdaughter, in the Seattle area or in the near Kirkland, Washington? She and her whole family have this high fever, dry cough, painful lungs. Their doctor just said, sorry, we can't do anything. We don't have any test kits. We can't find out. And I am guessing that there is a lot of community spread. I mean, if you get that 80% of the people who get this get a mild case. Well, a mild case sounds like what you had, Sasha. You weren't.
Yeah, it does.
You weren't on a respirator or a ventilator, and you didn't have to go to the ER. But still, you knew damn well you had something that was nasty.
Mm-hmm.
And are you feeling all better now?
I'm isolating now, but I've been out and about. I've been at executive committee meetings, sitting next to somebody saying, pardon my cough, it's not catching. I wish I could give it away. And we both laughed. Then I learned about the cough, and how do I protect people? Goodness gracious.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's amazing. Well, this is the thing. If you have a fever, and in particular, if you have a fever and a dry cough, do not go out in public, and contact your doctor and tell them what's going on.
Good point. I do want to share once again my irritation with Pence when he's standing up there saying how sorry he is. I don't care how you feel. That might be appropriate if this was a shooting, but we need some action. This is not a time for you're getting control of the message.
Yeah.
Let's get control of the disease.
You're absolutely right. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you for the call, and good luck. And check in with us in a week or two and let us know how the people that you had contact with when you were symptomatic and just thought it was a cold, how they're doing. Because that's probably one of the ways you're going to find out what you had and how it spreads and all that kind of thing. Sasha, thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you. John in Evansville, Indiana. Hey, John, what's on your mind?
Tom, I'm a very long-time listener, but a first-time caller. But I've wanted to call every day, practically. What I'm calling about today is that first of all, I want to thank you for Thom Hartmann University, and I want to thank you for Free Speech TV. But what's on my mind is that I hate to dispute something you're saying. That's why I wanted to just tell him to get off the air. I think I'm disputing, but then again, I don't want to appear to be defending.
Let's get right to it, John. What is it that you think that I said that was wrong?
The kits actually test 500 to 800 people.
No, not true. I can tell you with certainty that is not true. One test kit can test one person.
Time Magazine. Gee, I hate to get in a dispute with Thom Hartmann of all people.
Yeah.
I just got it from Time Magazine. That's all. That's the only place.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to Time Magazine right now. Time.com. Where is the article? What's it titled?
Well, hold on just a minute. Let me.
I'm looking at 14 people have it. Let's see if it says test kit.
At New York Times. I'm looking at the New York Times.
Yeah. See, I'm not finding it. I'll tell you what. If you can find what you're saying, I'm always willing to be corrected, John. But I read 3 articles this morning about this, and I heard a long riff about it on Oregon Public Broadcasting, where they were talking about one test kit. In fact, in some cases, 2 test kits for one person because they think that they're getting some false negatives, and they're concerned about it. And I've heard that repeatedly. I have never seen anywhere. If you can find it, tweet it to me, and I will correct myself on the air. My Twitter handle is Tom_Hartmann. But I think that you're wrong, John. And whoa, I just hit the brake, and I hit the wrong brake at the wrong time, Sean. I'm very sorry. But we're going into the break, whether we want to or not. Maybe I'll just talk over this, okay? And we'll just for a minute and a half, we'll just continue this. That was my bad. Katina in New Orleans, Louisiana. Hey, Katina, you're on the air. What's up? We have a minute and a half here.
Hi, Tom. How you doing? Oh,
Good.
gosh. Well, I'm actually pretty much very far from everybody else's topics. I found your name and was doing some research. Long story short, I have a son that has autism and many other disabilities, a chromosome disorder. He's very low functioning. I had to fight the schools against the IDEA and the FAPE laws and stuff to get him in the right kind of placement for years. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't afford an attorney. I had to do it myself. And what it did to me psychologically, physically, because I had to put my whole self on the back shelf, was unbelievable. And, the only thing that sustained me through the whole thing was thinking, maybe after I do this and we win, it'll make it a little easier for the next kid and the next parent. And now I have a friend that's in, I think, your home state, Oregon.
So, Katina, we have 30 seconds. What's your point?
The point is the schools are not meeting federal law requirements.
Oh, yeah, for special needs kids. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
and why? Because they're underfunded.
Well, the thing is, the federal government will reimburse them almost to the penny if they file their paperwork right.
Well, it's not just if they file their paperwork right. In some cases, they have to wait a year or more to get reimbursed. I mean, I've been through this. I used to be on the board of a private school that was mostly special needs kids. It's a horror show.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it is. But the thing is, the laws are there, and it's not a fact of, we need new laws or anything. We need those laws to be upheld and honored.
Katina, I'm sorry. We're heading a break right now, so we're gonna wrap it up. We'll be back at the top of the next hour, so stick around.
Go to another country and buy drugs. So when you were there in Spain and this happened to you, I would think that the natural reaction for you.
Thanks for listening.
Book on the Thom Hartmann Book Report.
We say fight back!
Happy Friday. Let's call this $5 Friday. If you can make a $5 contribution every month. I'll get back to that in just a second. But today is Louise's birthday. Don't tell her I told you. And it got us thinking, actually, about her birthday. two of our kids, one is a nurse practitioner, the other is a physician's assistant, and they're both primary health care people. They're both, working in one works in a hospital and the other works in a doctor's office. And we were going to have Louise's birthday party at a local Ethiopian restaurant because it's our favorite food as a family. And we just decided there's 3 cases of coronavirus now in Portland. And they announced on Oregon Public Broadcasting this morning that they can't do testing of anybody who is not already hospitalized because there are so few kits that the Trump administration has given to the state that they literally don't have enough. But they think that there's between 300 and 1,500 cases of coronavirus floating around inside Portland right now. So, my 2 daughters, who are the public health people, started this chain in text message saying to all of us, the whole family, let's not meet at a restaurant or any public place. Let's all meet at one of our kids' houses and do a potluck, which is what we're going to do tonight for Louise's birthday, which then got me thinking. In fact, I talked to Louise about it this morning. Netflix and Hulu and companies like that, their stock, is probably going to go up over time. Because what do people do when they're staying at home? They watch Netflix and stuff like that. Which then got me thinking, most of us, many of us anyway, we're paying for cable TV or we're paying for satellite TV. We may be paying for a special, for another, extra little bit on that to get, things like Netflix or Apple, Amazon Prime, whatever it may be. Those are typically $7 a month, $8 a month, $10 a month, $12 a month. If you think that's a reasonable cost for entertainment, isn't it a reasonable cost to send in $5 a month to keep Free Speech TV on the air? So, as a happy birthday to Louise and as doing our civic duty here, helping keep good, progressive, high-quality progressive programming on the air and keeping this show going and keeping this network going, please consider right now calling 877-378-8669 and committing on $5 Friday to $5 a month. Just have them ding your credit card until you tell them to stop. It will be such a good thing. It's not an immediate burst of money for Free Speech TV, although, maybe lots and lots of people will do this, but probably not. It's not going to be like millions of dollars, but it'll be thousands, and it adds up, and it's a big deal. So please consider calling now. If you want to give more than $5, there are a bunch of premiums. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the car magnet, sort of like a bumper sticker that says "I'm voting, are you?" And also has the Free Speech TV logo on it. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, you get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. With a $120 gift, we've got 3 options. One is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, brand new book just out. The second is the Just Effing Vote t-shirt in the size of your choice. And the third option is the Free Speech TV t-shirt. Ask me about Free Speech TV. Any one of those 3 things, your choice for a $120 gift today. With a $240 gift, we get the coronavirus free. You can't transmit, there are viruses that go over the internet, but they're not this kind of virus, right? With $240, you get the virtual meet and greet, where we will get together online, hang out, have an off-the-record conversation. With a $300 gift, you've got the official Free Speech TV Get Out the Vote pack that has a bunch of postcards that you can send to friends and family, introducing them to various programs on Free Speech TV. You get the car magnet, the bumper sticker kind of thing that says, encourages people to vote. I'm voting, are you? The Just Effing Vote tote bag, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which is a pretty important book right now, by the way. And you're going to want to read it, and you're going to want to share it with your friends. And with a $360 gift, you get the complete Hidden History book set of all 3 of the Hidden History books that are out right now, all autographed by the author. That would be me. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and suitable for gifts or whatever you'd like. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland. We're probably going to be scheduling these things a few months down the road when things settle down and we've got enough testing kits here in the state that we can figure out what's going on, and as our airports start to recover when things get under control. But you can get in line for that right now with a $1,000 gift, because things will return to normal, I think, probably by the late summer. So anyhow, call now, 877-378-8669, and say happy birthday to Louise. Thanks. We have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com for people who are regular supporters of our program, and the essence of it is, I used a couple of examples. There's hundreds of them out there. In one case, Alabama is preparing to execute a man who was not guilty of the crime that he committed with a relatively high level of certainty, but still they're gonna kill this guy, an African American. And the other story out of New York State, where the police officers hogtied this guy, elbows behind him, tied his legs together, and then threw him down a flight of stairs, mangled his face. He looked he was totally beaten. 12 hours later, he commits suicide in his cell. How is it possible that our prisons do this kind of stuff? Because the 13th Amendment says that slavery is still legal in the United States. You have no rights if you've been convicted of a crime. We need to amend the Constitution. Check it out at thomhartmann.com. To celebrate it. The book, It Came From Something Awful by Dale Byrne.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Okay, so I got the call from the guy in the last hour who said each test kit can test 500 people. And sure enough, I found the New York Times article. In fact, somebody tweeted it to me. In fact, I should credit who tweeted it to me. Thank you, Galaxy Girl. Appreciate that. And the article is in the New York Times. The headline, "Any American can now be tested for the coronavirus, Pence says." And it says, when Dr. Hahn was asked to clarify, this is a fellow who testified before the CDC, and this is Stephen Hahn. He's the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration. So he's a Trump administration appointee. He said, our expectation in talking to the company, so they're talking about a private manufacturer. Dr. Hahn said at a Senate hearing that the CDC was working with a private manufacturer to drastically increase the testing capacity of laboratories across the nation. He said, our expectation in talking to the company, scaling this up, is that we should have the capacity by the end of the week to have kits available to the laboratories to perform about 1 million tests. When Dr. Hahn was asked to clarify, he said he was hearing from private manufacturers that 2,500 test kits could be available by the end of each of the week, each kit capable of 500 tests. Later in the day, Mr. Pence repeated that number to reporters, saying the kits amounted to 1.5 million tests. Now, this was, I don't see the date on this. This was on March 4th, so this was 2 days ago. Number one, I had not seen this before. Number two, I can tell you for sure that the test kits that are being used in Oregon, each kit tests one person, or at least I can tell you that from Oregon Public Broadcasting, and I can tell you that everything that I've read suggests that the test kits that the CDC are providing right now, where Kansas has 5 of them, those test kits are one kit, one person. So what we have is the Trump administration political appointee saying in a hearing before the House or the Senate that he heard from a private company that they will be offering test kits that can test 500 people. But I see no evidence that those exist. And I'm not all that enthusiastic about believing anything that comes out of the Trump administration, but let's hope. Let's hope it's right. And as private companies start coming into the marketplace with these test kits, then we're going to start getting a more meaningful number of what the actual epidemiology of this disease looks like. But right now, we don't know. Will in Houston, Texas. Hey, Will, what's on your mind today? Will? No Will. Okay, let's try Kelvin in Birmingham, Alabama. Hey, Kelvin, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom.
Hey.
About 2 weeks ago, you were talking about if Mike Pence doesn't confirm the election or certify the election, it goes to the House.
Right.
What happens if the House doesn't certify it?
That's a good question. I think the House has to. It's not certification. It's in the House of Representatives, each state gets one vote.
One vote, right.
So regardless of how many members they have in the House of Representatives, and there are, I believe, 32 Republican-controlled states, and now the D.C. is in there too. In terms of the Electoral College, well, actually, no, D.C. would not be considered a state. So there would be, 28 democratically controlled states, if I'm doing this from memory. But the bottom line is almost certainly it would go to the Republican if it goes to the House. And you could find this in the 12th Amendment.
Would Nancy Pelosi be required to do it?
Well, she would be required to hold the vote. Yeah. You can read it's all in the 12th Amendment, although it doesn't say that the president of the Senate must, quote, certify the vote. It doesn't use that word. It says that the president of the Senate must open the votes and count them. But it doesn't say that count must be the official count. And so the understanding of everybody up to this point, and this is what Pramila Jayapal was telling me about when she was begging Vice President Biden not to certify the vote, not to basically count the vote, is that if the president of the Senate, that is the vice president in most cases, in the Tilden Hayes case, it wasn't the vice president because the vice president had just died, so it was another senator. But in any case, when the president of the Senate counts the vote, in quotes, that's when it becomes an official vote. But that went down in flames in the Tilden Hayes case.
So what if you were talking earlier about if there's certain states that if their Senate doesn't accept the Electoral College, that they can what they did in Florida.
Right. The individual state. Well, that's another way around it. That's another way that Republicans can rig a presidential election, is they can simply say, if they control a swing state, and they're pretty sure that swing state is going to go for the Democrats, they can pass legislation that says it doesn't matter who votes or how they vote in this state, all of our electoral votes are going to go for the Republican candidate. And that's, as I said, Texas was prepared to do, Florida was prepared to do that in the 2000 election. And yes, they can do that. They absolutely can do that. How the individual states allocate their electors is up to the state. And no, there's nothing that you can do to stop that if the Republicans control the state. The only thing that's prevented that up to this point is that they don't want to, look terrible, I guess. But they were willing, as I said, Florida was willing to do that in 2000. You can go back and read the news stories on it. Kelvin, thanks for the call. Deborah in Columbia, Tennessee. Hey, Deborah, what's up?
Hi, thank you for providing this platform. I just became a member this last week, and a small member. I'm on Social Security, but I believe in you so much.
Well, thank you, Deborah.
I had to do that. My concern, my question is this test kit or the test has actually been available for a long time. China seems to be able to test thousands per day.
It's more than that even.
It came out of Germany, and it came from the WHO. Why is it that the United States has not gotten tests from the WHO if we have flawed testing and get them out there?
It's a damn good question. And it's, unfortunately, I'm not hearing the news media ask the Trump-Pence administration about this. Trump held a press conference this morning, and they had a lot of opportunities to ask him hard questions. And I think, frankly, it's reached the point where all these reporters are just scared to death of Donald Trump. And they did not ask that question. But China has been testing people since December. South Korea has been testing people since January. Why don't we just call them up and order some test kits? I mean, they're making them like there's no tomorrow. But we're not.
I think it's widespread already.
Yes. Oh, I think it is too. And what I was hearing on Oregon Public Broadcasting yesterday was that there was somewhere between, the estimate right now in Oregon is there's somewhere between 300 and 1,500 people walking around loose, and mostly in Portland, who have this disease right now. And if you are in contact with those people, wearing a face mask is not going to help you at all unless they cough right in your face. The biggest problem is going to be that they touch something that you then touch. or that they touch
and
you,
they don't
or
even
you touch
know
them.
it could be airborne. It could be down the hall.
That's
and you could still.
That's correct, and apparently this virus can live for up to a couple of weeks, certainly for many hours, and certainly a few days on physical surfaces, doorknobs, walls, countertops, toilet seats, flush handles on toilets.
I challenge everybody to call your representative, call your senator, and demand that we get these tests from the WHO.
Yeah.
Get these things out there.
I am with you, Deborah. I am absolutely with you. Thank you very much for the call. And let's start demanding that our media hold the Trump administration accountable. Can you imagine if Barack Obama had shut down the two agencies in the Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Council responsible for epidemic disease, and then ordered a giant cut to the CDC's budget and was 4 months late in rolling out test kits? What would the Republicans be saying right now?
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I can tell you what they'd be saying right now. They'd be taking the names of those 11 people who've died so far in the United States, or 12 or whatever it is, and they'd be making us memorize those names along with Obama's. Unfortunately. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Robbie in Portland. Hey, Robbie, thanks for listening to X-Ray FM. What's up?
Yeah,
Happy
Tom,
Friday.
I'm going to switch gears a little. Happy Friday, Tom. Hey, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Did you know last week the Iowa Democratic Party finally released the recanvass results?
Yeah, we talked about this a couple days ago.
Well, why is it that the Associated Press isn't recalling a winner? Why aren't you calling out voter suppression in South Carolina and Texas?
I am.
California gave out. Well, okay, so...
I mean, what we saw in Texas, I don't know about
realize-
South Carolina, I'm guessing it was the same thing, but what we saw in Texas was, 7 hours in line, and guess what? When you look at those long lines in Texas, you were not looking at suburban white people. You were looking at black people, you were looking at Hispanic people, you were looking at young people in university towns. This was dress rehearsal by the state of Texas for Election Day.
What will it take for you to admit that Democrats are rigging an election before your eyes?
Well, some evidence of it.
What did you just not say that though? Did you not? Are they not closing polling stations? Are they not giving out provisional ballots?
To the best of my knowledge, Robbie, it's not Democrats who are closing polling stations in Texas. It's Republicans.
Then why are
Republicans
they doing this
control
before
the
the
state.
primary? Then why are they? Hang on. Then why are they doing this before the primary?
Because the primary is run by the state government.
So why are they rigging the Democratic election?
It wasn't. I don't think they were trying to rig the Democratic election. I think, although it had that effect, you're absolutely correct. Although you could argue that maybe it didn't. I mean, in student towns it hurt Bernie. In black neighborhoods it probably hurt Biden. But nonetheless, what they're doing is they're trying to suppress the vote overall by closing polling places. And this isn't just unique to Texas. This is happening all across the South. I just wrote a damn book about this, Robbie. I'm completely with you. What I have not seen is proof of your allegation that the Democrats rigged the vote in Iowa. I am suspicious as hell that something happened there that shouldn't have happened and that Bernie should have walked away with it, and he didn't. But I have not seen that proof. I would love to see that proof.
Tom, I've read your book. Honestly, it's great information, but I knew it in 2000. There's tons of documentaries. It's all information I know. But they attempted to rig Iowa. In Nevada, do you know why Bernie had a landslide?
Tell me.
Because of the Bernie Sanders app. It was the Bernie Sanders app. In Iowa, the Democratic Party didn't realize that Bernie Sanders, caucus delegates or precinct captains, whatever they call them, they had this app. They reported the results right away.
So they were basically double-checking the results in the caucus.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is why the Iowa Democratic Party, I've been calling the Iowa Democratic Party every day. They will not get back to me because I'm asking, why are there inconsistencies with this? Why aren't you doing this?
Right.
Why, is this not the Iowa Democratic Party attempting to rig? They almost got caught, and then now they couldn't do it in Nevada. They're closing polling stations. How is this not Democrats attempting to rig an election?
It's entirely possible, Robbie. Get me some evidence, and I will talk about it. But right now, I can tell you, there is one party that has been systematically trying to rig the vote since 1965. Prior to that, it was the Democrats along with the Republicans. But since the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, 65, you've had one party that has been working to suppress the vote all across this country, but particularly in the South. and that has been the Republican Party, period, full stop. And like I said, what you saw in Texas, and if there were long lines in South Carolina, and there probably were, I just didn't catch that news story, that is the dress rehearsal for November. And we're going to see it. We saw it in Ohio in 2004, people waiting in line 11 hours to vote. It was all black neighborhoods. No surprise. And they were saying, the machines weren't working. Like, what, that's black people's fault? No, that's the Republican. That was Ken Blackwell, the Republican Secretary of State in Ohio. We'll be back. Our 1 hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3 hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Andy in Minneapolis. Hey, Andy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. How are you?
I'm great, but I'll get better, hopefully. Knock wood.
All right. Hey, well, I heard on, I think it was Randy Rhodes or something, she had a nurse that was an emergency room nurse for like 40 years, and she said that the SARS or the virus that's out there right now, the coronavirus, is like a sister to the SARS virus, and she said hand sanitizers won't kill that virus, so you have to have ammonia.
Right. What I have read, what I have read, in fact, there was an article about this yesterday, I believe in Nature. I get a daily newsletter from Nature, the science magazine, is that if you want to use a hand sanitizer and kill the virus, you've got to have a hand sanitizer that has a very, very high level of alcohol, at least 60% alcohol. And B, you've got to use a large quantity of it. Just a little squirt on your hands that you wipe right off is probably not going to be effective because there's all kinds of nooks and crannies in your hand and around your fingernails and under your fingernails and in your cuticles. And it takes a large exposure of alcohol to bust up this virus actually has a capsule around it to bust up that capsule. So the hand sanitizers that don't have alcohol are what I've read. And again, don't take my word for it. This is not medical advice, but this is just my best understanding of what I've read both in the science press and in the mainstream press, is that the hand sanitizers that don't have alcohol are not actually hand sanitizers. And in fact, I looked on Amazon earlier this morning for Purell, and the one that you could buy for $5 a bottle it literally did not say sanitizer, it simply said Purell, whereas the one that you could buy for $70 a bottle said, hand sanitizer, more than 60% alcohol, number one. Number two, bleach is the best thing for disinfecting surfaces around your home, your doorknobs, things like that. Bleach knocks this out super fast, as opposed to alcohol, which, takes a lot more alcohol. And there was a number three, but I don't remember what it was. But anyhow, did I answer your question? Yeah, be sure that you have an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. I remember the third thing was soap. Soap doesn't actually, some kinds of soap actually kill the virus because it bursts or breaks up the capsule. It's got this kind of capsule around it. It's called an encapsulated virus. But many kinds of soap don't. But what soap does do is it dislodges it from your hands and rinses it down the sink. So whether you're using a soap that actually destroys the virus or whether you're using a soap that simply removes it, soap and water is actually, if you do it for the full 20 seconds, more effective than way more effective than any kind of hand sanitizer. And of course, washing your hands with bleach is something you just don't want to do. So did I cover everything? The whole waterfront here, Andy?
Yes, you bet, Tom. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Good to hear from you. Ricky in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Hey, Ricky, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Just want to talk about Bernie Sanders on the Rachel Maddow show on Wednesday. He said that he'd essentially step down if at the convention Biden had the plurality of delegates.
Yeah, that was Thursday, but yeah.
Okay. And
no, wait a minute. You're right. It was Wednesday because, okay. I'm sorry. Keep going, Ricky.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if he's worried. I'm wondering if he's putting that out there because he'd want the reverse to be true, too. Biden would fight him at the convention if he had the plurality, right? And he'd have the superdelegates.
Yeah.
I think he's just sort of setting it up that, hey, I'm being the good guy. I would step down. So Biden, you should step down.
My understanding of Rachel's question was if one of you comes into the convention with enough votes to win on the first ballot, is the other one going to step down even before the ballot, so the balloting is not even necessary, which is how it's usually done. And that was my understanding of what her question was, not if one of you has a plurality, will the other one step back. In other words, if nobody gets 1,991 votes, but one of you has more than the other, will you step down? I don't think that's what she asked him. I'd have to go back and review it, though, Ricky.
Okay. But so is it possible on this first ballot, let's say Bernie has 1,991, he can still lose the first ballot if states change their mind? Or is it just a formality?
Yeah, I don't know about the states changing their mind or individual delegates changing their mind. I believe they can, like electors. But I think that would be a huge mistake, both for the Democratic Party and for those individual electors. I would be very, very surprised if that happened. So we'll see.
I don't think that.
Ricky, I got to move along, but thank you for the call. Max in Monroe, North Carolina. Hey, Max, what's on your mind?
Hi. So anyways, I was looking at the difference between the delegates that Biden got and the delegates that Hillary got.
Mm-hmm.
And
in what state?
And Biden, well, in the states that on Super Tuesday.
Okay.
And but the one that Biden got, his support was way lower than Hillary's support.
Mm-hmm.
Just in Texas, I think it was Hillary got like 64%.
Any of those comparisons, Max, are really hard to make, though, because there were 5 people or more than 5 people, but 5 solid candidates on the ballot this time, and there were 2 candidates on the ballot in 2016.
Oh yeah, but in Texas, everybody already dropped out, and they supported Biden.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing is that to me, when I look at all the way, Trump's support on the Gallup poll is way up now, and it hasn't dropped. And I have not
among
seen
Republicans, yes,
Bernie or Biden support up that high. Right. So either one of them is going to have a really hard time beating him, and especially with them trying to impeach him, and then when Schumer came out and said his support went up.
Well, yes, among Republicans, and marginally among some independents, but every head-to-head matchup that I've seen, with one single exception, and I think it's the outlier, shows that either Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden beats Donald Trump. Now, the grain of salt here for all this, Max, is that this is March and the election is in November. And in March, Jimmy Carter was way ahead of Ronald Reagan in March of 1980. You could just go back and look at election after election after election. And in March, things looked one way, and in November, they ended up another way. A lot's going to happen between now and November, and we have no way of knowing what it is. So let's not get too worried about any kind of poll. And let's just keep our head down and keep moving forward and keep spreading the word and keep making sure that, in particular, that your friends, neighbors, and relatives in red states, that their voter registration is intact, that they are registered to vote. Let's get ready for this election. We have to get this guy out of office and replace him with a Democrat, regardless of who that Democrat is.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It is Anything Goes Friday. Back with your calls right after this. Happy Friday. Let's call this $5 Friday. If you can make a $5 contribution every month. I'll get back to that in just a second. But today is Louise's birthday. Don't tell her I told you. And it got us thinking, actually, about her birthday. 2 of our kids, one is a nurse practitioner, the other is a physician's assistant, and they're both primary health care people. They're both, working in one works in a hospital and the other works in a doctor's office. And we were going to have Louise's birthday party at a local Ethiopian restaurant because it's our favorite food as a family. And we just decided there's 3 cases of coronavirus now in Portland. And they announced on Oregon Public Broadcasting this morning that they can't do testing of anybody who is not already hospitalized because there are so few kits that the Trump administration has given to the state that they literally don't have enough, but they think that there's between 300 and 1,500 cases of coronavirus floating around inside Portland right now. So, my two daughters, who are the public health people, started this chain in text message saying to all of us, the whole family, let's not meet at a restaurant or any public place. Let's all meet at one of our kids' houses and do a potluck, which is what we're going to do tonight for Louise's birthday, which then got me thinking. In fact, I talked to Louise about it this morning. Netflix and Hulu and companies like that, their stock, is probably going to go up over time. Because what do people do when they're staying at home? They watch Netflix and stuff like that, which then got me thinking, most of us, many of us anyway, we're paying for cable TV or we're paying for satellite TV. We may be paying for a special, for another, extra little bit on that to get, things like Netflix or Apple, Amazon Prime, whatever it may be. Those are typically $7 a month, $8 a month, $10 a month, $12 a month. If you think that's a reasonable cost for entertainment, isn't it a reasonable cost to send in $5 a month to keep Free Speech TV on the air? So, as a happy birthday to Louise, and as doing our civic duty here, helping keep good, progressive, high-quality progressive programming on the air, and keeping this show going and keeping this network going, please consider right now calling 877-378-8669 and committing on $5 Friday to $5 a month. Just have them ding your credit card until you tell them to stop. It will be such a good thing. It's not an immediate burst of money for Free Speech TV, although, maybe lots and lots of people will do this, but probably not. It's not going to be like millions of dollars, but it'll be thousands, and it adds up, and it's a big deal. So please consider calling now. If you want to give more than $5, there are a bunch of premiums. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the car magnet, sort of like a bumper sticker that says "I'm voting, are you?" And also has the Free Speech TV logo on it. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, you get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. With a $120 gift, we've got three options. One is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, brand new book just out. The second is the Just Effing Vote t-shirt in the size of your choice. And the third option is the Free Speech TV t-shirt. Ask me about Free Speech TV. Any one of those three things, your choice for a $120 gift today. With a $240 gift, we get the coronavirus free. You can't transmit, there are viruses that go over the internet, but they're not this kind of virus, right? With $240, you get the virtual meet and greet, where we will get together online, hang out, have an off-the-record conversation. With a $300 gift, you've got the official Free Speech TV Get Out the Vote pack that has a bunch of postcards that you can send to friends and family, introducing them to various programs on Free Speech TV. You get the car magnet, the bumper sticker kind of thing that says, encourages people to vote. I'm voting, are you? The Just Effing Vote tote bag, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which is a pretty important book right now, by the way, and you're going to want to read it, and you're going to want to share it with your friends. And with a $360 gift, you get the complete Hidden History book set of all three of the Hidden History books that are out right now, all autographed by the author. That would be me. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and suitable for gifts or whatever you'd like. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland. We're probably going to be scheduling these things a few months down the road when things settle down and we've got enough testing kits here in the state that we can figure out what's going on, and as our airports start to recover, when things get under control. But you can get in line for that right now with a $1,000 gift, because things will return to normal, I think, probably by the late summer. So anyhow, call now, 877-378-8669, and say happy birthday to Louise. Thanks. Coming up this week on the Science Revolution, is the coronavirus about to show us the cost of not having Medicare for all? Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter, public health professor at George Washington University Medical School Dr. Lena Wen, and author of The Coming Plague, Lori Garrett, all join me for the most up-to-date information on the now pandemic coronavirus. Don't miss it and check it out wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. So our caller, John, earlier, I just replied to him on Twitter, in fact, kind of opened a can of worms, but it's a good one. I'm glad we're having this conversation. He said that he had read in Time magazine that each test kit could test 500 people. And sure enough, the Associated Press, Jim in D.C., is tweeting each test kit should allow a lab to run about 500 tests. Sue Nethercutt tweeted one that says each test kit can test approximately 700 to 800 patient specimens, but that's apparently the ones coming from China. The Raphael tweets to me, each test kit can do 500 people. This is because Governor Ned Lamont of Connecticut says he's got one test kit, so he can test 500 people. But then on the other hand, I've got For American Values tweeted me a photo of an actual CDC test kit, and it has 4 tests in it. So I think that instead of talking about test kits, because apparently there are different test kits coming from different groups, the CDC test kit may test 4 people, or it may require 4 different reagents to do one test, because I've heard that also, that it's a multi-part test, so that might be one person per CDC test kit. I just don't know. I don't know. And I don't know what kind we're getting, when we get them here in Oregon. They're talking about we're going to get some more. Earlier, I shared with you the story that Missouri was going to get 5, as I recall. Maybe those are 5 test kits that can each do 500 people. Let's hope so. I mean, that would be really good news. I was reading it as it was 5 test kits that could each do 1 person. So we'll see. David, and excuse me. No, I don't have the virus. Hopefully. David in Escondido, California. Hey, David, what's up?
Hey, how are you, Tom?
I'm good. I just inhaled some saliva. Shouldn't do that. Yeah. So what's on your mind?
Yeah, no, a little gross. Was calling about our voting issue. My wife and I are registered Democrats. Mm-hmm. We've been registered Democrats for eons. We've been in Escondido for about close to 18 years. We went to vote the other day, and we were listed as independents, no longer listed as Democrats.
Oh, interesting.
Somehow we got switched.
Now, did you, my understanding is that in the 2016 primary, there was some very large percentage of the vote, and I believe it was Greg Palast who told me this, in California, where people got switched from being registered as Democrats to being registered as NPP, no party preference. So you didn't get a ballot, which in the primary that would have been, Bernie, Hillary. Did this happen? Do you know if this happened prior to the 2016 primary in California, or did it happen recently?
Well, to me, it just happened. So okay. I don't know if it happened. It didn't happen in 2016 when we went to vote. We were still listed as Democrats.
You were? Okay, for sure. Yeah. All right, because I don't know what to tell you, David. Contact your Secretary of State's office and ask them if they can give you any answers about what happened, or who should you talk to about what happened. And when you find out what happened, would you call the show and let us know?
Yeah, definitely. Because we had to re-register as Democrats while we were there.
Right.
So
and you can do that. You can do that on the spot now in California. I think this is the first election where you can do that, and that was in part because of that problem in 2016. Where people were thinking that this was, they were trying to rig the election for Hillary or something, and it spun all kinds of conspiracy theories. And whether or not there was any there, I still don't know. I think they're trying to fix this. But David, if you find out, let me know. Thanks a lot for the call. Steve in Zimmerman, Minnesota. Hey, Steve, what's up?
Hey, Tom. I've been, in regards to the Electoral College, I've been hearing a lot of griping about Bernie Sanders having not visited South Carolina or even talked to Mr. Clyburn. And it's my understanding that Joe Biden won 2 states he never visited and didn't even have campaign headquarters set up in.
That's true. To the best of my knowledge, yes. And spent no advertising on.
Yeah, all this griping about Bernie having not gone somewhere. Well, the Electoral College seems to dictate where politicians are going to go because they don't have to go to every state.
Well, not in the primaries. That's absolutely the case in the general election. The general election is you're going to see 10, 12, maybe 14 states where there's going to be a whole lot of money poured into the election, and then there's going to be other states that are just going to be largely ignored because at least in terms of the presidential race, obviously you'll see hard-fought state races and Senate and things like that. But in the primaries, that's not the case. In the primaries, they're going for the delegate-rich states, the larger states now, and the early voting states, because the whole name of the game is getting momentum and establishing what seems to be inevitability. And I think that Jim Clyburn's endorsement of Joe Biden was absolutely huge, and I think I think it changed a lot of minds. Steve, thanks for the call. Sasha in Kingston, New York. Hey, Sasha, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Tom, and thank you for all your great work.
Thank you.
And a very happy birthday to Louise.
Okay.
I have a concern and a question, whether you might know the answer or any of our listeners here. It's about the census, and we're all aware of the obvious problem about not counting homeless people, and also not counting homeless people in the living in tents and all kinds of tent encampments.
Sure.
But my question is, the tens and tens and tens of thousands of technically homeless people who are living in, of course, my state of New York and all over the country, living in DSS motel rooms. The DSS, Department of Social Services, puts up people in motel rooms, and many of them, like myself, I'm paying all of my Social Security money. It ain't free. So, honest to God, tens of thousands of people living in these motel rooms across the country, and also people living in homeless shelters put up by, in part, departments of social services. If and how, and I question and doubt that they will be counted, the people living in these motel rooms and these shelters. And I'll just finish up by saying, FYI, none of these DSS motels or shelters are non-profit. They are all for-profit, like any other landlord, making a lot of money. So,
not surprised.
Yeah.
My concern about I share your concern about the census. The census is going to determine which states get how much federal money, and the Republican Party is already trying to rig the census. They're sending phony census forms into I believe into blue states. The Trump campaign was running phony census ads on Facebook, over 1,400 different or over 1,000 different phony ads, on Facebook. Judd Legum yesterday outed them on popular.info on his newsletter. And today, Facebook took down hundreds, maybe 1,000 of the Trump campaign, ads that were lying about the census. But, this administration, the Trump administration, is going to do everything they can to try to rig the census. Originally, Wilbur Ross, he wanted to have a citizenship question on there that would essentially scare anybody who had somebody who was, particularly people from south of the border, who may be citizens but may have a brother-in-law who's not. That was an attempt to scare them. They're going to be trying to do that again too. So they're going to try and rig the census, and all we can do is try to spread the word. When the census is being done, ignore anything that you get right now that looks like the census, because it's a Republican scam. And when the real census rolls out, we have to respond to it and pay attention. I share your concerns, Sasha. I'm sorry I don't have an easy answer. James in Chicago. Hey, James, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Tom?
Good. What's on your mind?
Listen, I got a question before I get to my point. The national annual budget is how much? Is it $20 trillion or?
No, that's the GDP. That's all economic activity in the country is around $20 trillion, and that's our national debt. It's around $20 trillion. The annual federal budget is somewhere between $3 and $4 trillion, and I'm sorry I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering when they be hitting Bernie with that as far as the health care. But it's regarding the upcoming debate, and I think they pounced on Bernie the last one, so he looked a little frustrated.
Yeah.
And I just think that this time, hopefully he will be poised and calm, because that's what did it for Joe Biden the last debate. So I hope he doesn't get flustered. And I also hope he doesn't raise his hand every 5 seconds. That looks annoying. So.
Well, it's just going to be the two of them. So it's going to be an opportunity, I think, for people to really compare Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden side by side. The unfortunate thing is it's going to happen after the Michigan primary. It's going to happen after several large primaries. The debate is going to be on the 15th, and those primaries are happening next Tuesday, which is what, like the 10th or 11th or 12th or something like that. Today's the 6th.
Okay. And I just got one other point. As far as African Americans are concerned in the Midwest and the West, we are more independent-minded voters, and we don't let establishment politicians determine our vote. Now, a good example of that is Lori Lightfoot here in Chicago. The establishment wanted Bill Daley, but like I said, we're more independent. So Bernie's going to get a lot more votes than he did in the South. So you got to worry about that.
Yeah, and proof of that, anybody who talks about the black vote as being monolithic, is crazy. Just look at how the African American vote broke out state by state all across the country in Super Tuesday. It was all over the map. African Americans are independent minded, Hispanics are independent minded, whites, arguably. You have to really do a deep dive into the numbers to find groups where you can say, okay, among these kind of people with this kind of education who live in this kind of neighborhood, we can find some trend lines here. But just, throwing out these labels is crazy, as Kenyatta pointed out earlier in the program. James, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. Thanks for listening to WCPT. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
Helping you win the water cooler wars as we speak the truths the multinational corporations would really rather you to know all about. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Let's see here. Julian in Chicago, and Lance in Istanbul, Turkey, and Nicholas in Mexico. I'm going to pick up your calls after the next after the next break. So, Julian, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom. I'm from Chicago, and with the election coming up, I'm not trying to get overly philosophical. I'm 23. And I don't really represent a lot of the majority, I'd say, in Chicago. I went to a Catholic high school, went to a Catholic college, and I feel like in some ways I'm kind of out of the loop when it comes to how the world or how like Donald Trump may like view us. So basically, my question is, Tom, like at the end of Obama's presidency, he mentioned something about how we shouldn't be so patient for change in this country. Mm-hmm. But then I say what is change? Because incremental change is boasted on the left, even like the center left, mostly with moderate and like neoliberals. So, but what is incremental change to someone who needs change now? In the course of our lifetime, incremental change will ultimately be meaningless because of our inability to stand up to something we should have done a long time ago.
Yeah, a good example of that is climate change.
Yeah. I mean, but also burn the system down. Bernie's saying, but the right way, the way that speaks to egalitarian principles of government where everyone rules equally. Yeah. There's even city plannings about this stuff, how to do all this. And it's just I just kind of want to leave that open thought out there. And since we were talking about black people being individuals and you finding zones, and I love that topic just kind of blended in really well with what I'm trying to say. It's just that we all think differently, and Obama said it, but he was wrong on it. We need wholesale change now, and it's just because we're too coward. We're cowards, and I don't want to be so explicit.
I think there are some areas, Julian, and the three that I would put at the top of that list, actually four. Climate change, number one, everybody having access to health care for free. Number two, so that people don't have to make financial decisions before they go to the doctor. Having access to high quality education from 3 years old until you get a PhD. Number three, because we know that all of that will pay back more than it costs in terms of added tax revenue. So it's an investment. It's not even an expense. And number 4, I would say, opening our democracy up. We need to establish voting as a right. It's crazy that the state you live in, Illinois, can't take away your gun without going to court, but they can take away your vote without even talking to you about it. So those 4 areas, I think we need immediate change. We need aggressive change. These are crises. But then there's a whole bunch of other things where, and I don't want to name any of them because each one is going to be a hot button for somebody, but there's a whole bunch of other areas where there's a lot of things that need to get done. And Elizabeth Warren had plans for all of them, and Bernie has plans for most of them. But those are the areas where, incremental change we can deal with, but we can't have our planet melting down. And we can't have a completely dysfunctional healthcare system in the midst of an epidemic. And we can't have we can't fail to educate this current generation of people coming up when we have to compete in a world economy, and there's big challenges ahead of us, including climate change. So, and we need a functional democracy. Does that make sense, Julian?
Complete sense. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. We'll be back. So it's a matter of prioritizing. But fast change, incremental change, slow change, no change. We all need to have a conversation about each one of these things, but within these individual silos, in my humble opinion. We'll be right back. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Lance watching us on YouTube in Istanbul, Turkey. Hey, Lance, what's up? I'm guessing you're an expat American?
I'm currently in Istanbul right now. I'm from Las Vegas. And I have to get pretty much all my news off of YouTube here, the different MSNBC, your show, and so forth.
Cool.
But real quick, just before I ask you what I wanted to call in about, a couple of quick comments. One is on that 13th Amendment deserves so much more attention, so keep screaming that at the top of your lungs. On the testing kits, that could be just coming down to something, I'm not going to say simple, but so contrived as to which one of Trump's corporate donors is going to get the contract to provide those testing kits and for how much. Anyway, the reason I'm calling this concerning the Trump v. Vance case that's being heard in the Supreme Court, March 31st. You familiar with that?
I only marginally. Please educate me.
Well, this was brought to my attention.
This is Cyrus Vance in New York State, right?
Cyrus Vance, exactly, right. The Manhattan District Attorney. Right. And the argument is, and this is brought to my attention August the 26th last year, and why this isn't probably the number one priority that people should be talking about right now is because of the ramifications of what could happen because of this case. This is a case where Judge Chin asked Consovoy, Trump's attorney, that the speculation or what the hearing's about is that a sitting president cannot be charged with a crime. And Consovoy brought up that Chin asked him, well, give me an example, and he gave the example of what Trump said back in 2016. I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and so forth.
Well, but he said he wouldn't lose a vote. He didn't say he couldn't be prosecuted. My understanding is that what Cyrus Vance is trying to do...
Asked him that.
Chin
asked him that. He says, are you saying Trump could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and not be charged with a crime? And Consovoy said, that is correct. He said it twice. That is correct. That is correct.
Yes,
now,
you're right.
My thought process on this was that Vance didn't really take this to a degree and jump on that as let's get down and dirty with the situation. What if Vance would have said, wait a second, what if Trump sexually assaulted a 16-year-old girl? Could he be charged with a crime then? To what level of a crime can a president commit and not be charged with it? You can't even gather evidence. You can't even gather the bullets.
position that the position that the administration is taking, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Lance, but my understanding of Cyrus Vance's case against Donald Trump, he's not actually trying to prosecute Trump. He's just trying to get his tax returns so that he can determine if Trump has committed fraud in the state of New York. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. But the argument is that, so what if it doesn't matter what they're trying to do?
Right, exactly. And so what the administration is saying, and what they said, in fact, is why would we be giving information that could lead to a prosecution, like Trump's tax returns, when you can't, in fact, prosecute a sitting president? We should not even be doing investigations because it can't lead to an indictment, et cetera. And that's what's going to be heard by the Supreme Court. And yeah, I get it. And I don't see any. I mean, this is going to establish once and for all the legal precedent, because the only thing that the Trump administration can point to are opinions that were written by John Mitchell, Richard Nixon's attorney general, and Bill Clinton's attorney general, when both of those presidents were facing the threat of impeachment. And in both cases, they had their attorney generals write an opinion saying you can't indict a sitting president. And in fact, both of them had committed crimes that were indictable. And so all we've got are these two AG reports, or these two Office of Legal Counsel actually reports within the, underneath the AG. And the Supreme Court is going to make this decision. The argument, the rationale that Bill Barr is putting forward, and that was put forward originally, and actually if you read the Clinton argument, I read this a couple of months ago, the summary, the Office of Legal Counsel letter that was done during the Clinton administration, and they refer to the one from the Nixon administration at length. And it actually makes a certain amount of sense that the president shouldn't be pestered because it's such important work he's doing, et cetera, et cetera. Although Clinton went along, and testified before, under oath before a grand jury via video, but nonetheless, and got nailed for it because he lied about it. Monica Lewinsky. But this is where we're going to find out. The Supreme Court is going to determine whether a president can be indicted and can be investigated. And I think it's going to be real interesting. So what's your concern, Lance? What's your call for action?
Okay, well, if you look at the, let's say, season 4 of House of Cards, the same thing Kevin Spacey did in that TV show, Trump's just reading this as a playbook, just like in last episode of Deep State, create a problem and become the solution. The same thing here.
I haven't watched either show. I guess I'm going to have to.
Well, when you do, you'll see all he's doing is almost action for action what's in those shows.
Wow.
But in the interim, though, that if he does get a favorable ruling in that, then it's pretty much game over. If he can't be committed with a crime, he has a kiss his butt Senate and GOP. Everybody's just on board with him no matter what.
At least until January 20th, if he doesn't win re-election. But what the larger problem, Lance, is that any future president who wants to engage in criminal activity will have carte blanche to do that. That would be a terrible precedent.
The part, you still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
The part about in the Kevin Spacey House of Cards scenario is that he created a terrorist act in a state, and that he had the governor close down the polling booth so that one state whose electoral college votes would swing the vote the wrong way.
I got to look for that one. Lance, I'm sorry we're out of time. Thanks for the call. Thanks for watching us there in Turkey.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
We say fight back!
Happy Friday. Let's call this $5 Friday. If you can make a $5 contribution every month. I'll get back to that in just a second. But today is Louise's birthday. Don't tell her I told you. And it got us thinking, actually, about her birthday. Two of our kids, one is a nurse practitioner, the other is a physician's assistant, and they're both primary health care people. They're both, working in one works in a hospital and the other works in a doctor's office. And we were going to have Louise's birthday party at a local Ethiopian restaurant because it's our favorite food as a family. And we just decided there's 3 cases of coronavirus now in Portland. And they announced on Oregon Public Broadcasting this morning that they can't do testing of anybody who is not already hospitalized because there are so few kits that the Trump administration has given to the state that they literally don't have enough. But they think that there's between 300 and 1,500 cases of coronavirus floating around inside Portland right now. So, my 2 daughters, who are the public health people, started this chain in text message saying to all of us, the whole family, let's not meet at a restaurant or any public place. Let's all meet at one of our kids' houses and do a potluck, which is what we're going to do tonight for Louise's birthday, which then got me thinking. In fact, I talked to Louise about it this morning. Netflix and Hulu and companies like that, their stock, is probably going to go up over time. Because what do people do when they're staying at home? They watch Netflix and stuff like that, which then got me thinking, most of us, many of us anyway, we're paying for cable TV or we're paying for satellite TV. We may be paying for a special, for another, extra little bit on that to get, things like Netflix or Apple, Amazon Prime, whatever it may be. Those are typically $7 a month, $8 a month, $10 a month, $12 a month. If you think that's a reasonable cost for entertainment, isn't it a reasonable cost to send in $5 a month to keep free speech TV on the air? So, as a happy birthday to Louise and as doing our civic duty here, helping keep good, progressive, high-quality progressive programming on the air and keeping this show going and keeping this network going, please consider right now calling 877-378-8669 and committing on $5 Friday to $5 a month. Just have them ding your credit card until you tell them to stop. It will be such a good thing. It's not an immediate burst of money for free speech TV, although, maybe lots and lots of people will do this, but probably not. It's not going to be like millions of dollars, but it'll be thousands, and it adds up, and it's a big deal. So please consider calling now. If you want to give more than $5, there are a bunch of premiums. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the car magnet, sort of like a bumper sticker that says "I'm voting, are you?" and also has the Free Speech TV logo on it. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, you get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. With a $120 gift, we've got 3 options. One is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, brand new book just out. The second is the Just Effing Vote t-shirt in the size of your choice. And the third option is the Free Speech TV t-shirt. Ask me about Free Speech TV. Any one of those 3 things, your choice for a $120 gift today. With a $240 gift, we get the coronavirus free. You can't transmit, there are viruses that go over the internet, but they're not this kind of virus, right? With $240, you get the virtual meet and greet, where we will get together online, hang out, have an off-the-record conversation. With a $300 gift, you've got the official Free Speech TV Get Out the Vote pack that has a bunch of postcards that you can send to friends and family, introducing them to various programs on Free Speech TV. You get the car magnet, the bumper sticker kind of thing that says, encourages people to vote. I'm voting, are you? The Just Effing Vote tote bag, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which is a pretty important book right now, by the way. And you're going to want to read it, and you're going to want to share it with your friends. And with a $360 gift, you get the complete Hidden History book set of all 3 of the Hidden History books that are out right now, all autographed by the author. That would be me. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, the Hidden History of the Supreme Court, the Hidden History of the War on Voting, and suitable for gifts or whatever you'd like. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland. We're probably going to be scheduling these things a few months down the road when things settle down and we've got enough testing kits here in the state that we can figure out what's going on, and as our airports start to recover when things get under control. But you can get in line for that right now with a $1,000 gift, because things will return to normal, I think, probably by the late summer. So anyhow, call now, 877-378-8669, and say happy birthday to Louise. Thanks. We have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com for people who are regular supporters of our program, and the essence of it is, I use a couple of examples. There's hundreds of them out there. In one case, Alabama is preparing to execute a man who was not guilty of the crime that he committed with a relatively high level of certainty, but still they're gonna kill this guy, an African American. And the other story out of New York State, where the police officers hogtied this guy, elbows behind him, tied his legs together, and then threw him down a flight of stairs, mangled his face. He looked he was totally beaten. 12 hours later, he commits suicide in his cell. How is it possible that our prisons do this kind of stuff? Because the 13th Amendment says that slavery is still legal in the United States. You have no rights if you've been convicted of a crime. We need to amend the Constitution. Check it out at thomhartmann.com.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And just to catch up on some of the news here, a federal judge has ordered cover-up General Barr to give him an unredacted copy of the Mueller report. He thinks that Barr is still hiding stuff about Trump's crimes. And this is not some grandstanding, showboating judge. In fact, I think Steve Vladeck, who is a professor of law at the University of Texas Law School, said it best. He said, "This is a remarkable opinion and a stunning rebuke of the Attorney General of the United States from a federal district judge who is neither a firebrand nor one who's prone to hyperbole." It's Judge Reggie Walton, and he basically said that William Barr exhibited such an egregious lack of candor that his redactions in the Mueller report need to be reviewed for accuracy. Fascinating. And so, Barr has until the end of the month to give that to this judge. Jared Kushner made $20 million in profit based on a tax break that he asked Trump to ask the Republicans to put into the tax bill, if I'm reading these news stories right. Mark Carlin has got a great piece about this over at buzzflash.com. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has a lot of explaining to do after a $5 million investment made him at least a $20 million profit. According to the report, his holding was worth between $25 and $50 million. It cost him $5 million. And apparently the increase in value of Kushner and his wife Ivanka Trump, their $20 to $45 million profit was the result of Trump's tax bill, which they apparently lobbied him on. Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr. is touring India. A great piece about this by Zishan Alim over at Vox.com. The headline is, Donald Trump Jr.'s tour through India is staggeringly corrupt. President Trump's eldest son will be spending his time in India promoting Trump-branded luxury apartments throughout the country. Trump doesn't actually own anything in India, but he's cutting deals with hotels and apartment complexes all over the country, some very, very large ones, to put the Trump name on there, and then everybody who rents or leases or whatever profit they make, a piece of that goes to Donald Trump, to the Trump family. And here's where it gets really bizarre. Indian newspapers have been running advertisements that promise homebuyers willing to pay a roughly $38,000 booking fee get an opportunity to, quote, join Mr. Donald Trump Jr. for a conversation and dinner. Government ethics experts in the U.S. are appalled, writes Aleem. This seems designed to invite corrupt behavior. Jr. is selling access to himself and by proxy to the President of the United States. And wait a minute, these are the guys who are all upset about Joe Biden's son being on Burisma's board and making $50,000 a month. And Junior's over there charging $38,000 a person to have dinner with him in India. And Junior selling access to him and by proxy to the President of the United States in exchange for buying his products. If a member of the Indian elite wants a chance to advocate for a policy they'd like to see enacted, buying a Trump property is a simple way to do it. And now Junior's giving a speech on Indo-Pacific relations, but he's not supposed to be part of the Trump White House. Like, Jared and Ivanka, they don't take a paycheck, so, maybe they don't have to do quite the disclosure that they may otherwise have to do. But Trump Jr. is supposed to be running the company. Why is he giving a speech on Indo-Pacific relations? He's not a formal member of the White House. But he's causing people to think that he is. So they'll pay $38,000 to talk to him so that he can talk to Daddy. Currently, the Trump Organization has overseen 5 projects in India, making India the largest international market for the Trump company. And meanwhile, Texas has closed 750 polling places since 2012. Get ready. This is voter suppression on steroids. It is going to be rolling along. Our caller of the day is Kitty from Delray Beach, Florida. And Kitty, you get your choice of any of my 3 hidden history books, Guns, Supreme Court, or Voting. Which one did you want?
I would love the Supreme Court one.
Cool. I will autograph it to you, and Joyce will send it off this afternoon. So, Kitty,
thank you so much.
As our caller of the day, what's your comment?
Well, there was 2 things real quick. I told you last time I called about Ecosia, ECOSIA. It's a search engine, and every time you use it, they plant a tree, and it has a little ticker that shows how many trees have been planted.
Really?
So it's wonderful, and I feel good every time I use it. So I just wanted to put that out there. The other thing is, I always watch gold and the stock market. I'm just curious about these things. And when the stock market was crashing under Bush and then to Obama, I was remembering that one time it went down 777 points, and everybody was like shocked. That was like bad. And now it's going down over 1,000, 800. I mean, the numbers are crazy now, and it seems like it's a little bit more normalized. But what's curious to me is it doesn't seem that the price of gold is really the fact that we have a pandemic and the fact that the stock market is going down 1,000 points in a day. I don't see the price of gold jumping the way I would have expected.
Right.
And I hear a lot of people talk about how the price of gold is manipulated because of the paper gold versus the physical gold. So I know that you're interested in gold prices as well. I hear sometimes. I thought that maybe you would be able to explain if you think that there's any sort of manipulation going on with gold.
Yeah, and we used to have an advertiser who was a gold company. My understanding, and I've in particular the daily newsletter that I get from the Aiden forecast. Chuck, the guy who writes the thing, talks about this a lot. I can't verify it from firsthand knowledge, but basically there's 2 big factors that seem to be affecting the gold market. One is governmental buying. Governments, buy gold by the ton, and so government buying or government selling of gold will affect the price of gold. And then the other is that gold is also sold on both physical gold and mining company stocks are not only sold directly. There's an ETF for physical gold and mining company stocks, and then there's an ETF for the aggregate of those things. And those things are subject to manipulation on Wall Street. I think gold is probably one of those things where over a long period of time, it is a store of value, and it's probably never going to go down hugely. But I would be more cautious in terms of
Gotcha.
thinking of it as an investment vehicle. Thank you, Kitty. I'm just, there's so many variables. And then you get things like, the price of gold will go up or down depending on the Indian holidays and the Chinese holidays, because people use gold, instrument, jewelry, and buy gold Buddhas and stuff like that, on some of those holidays. So I just don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Kitty, thanks for the call. It's great to hear from you, and congratulations on being caller of the day. Richard in L.A., California. Hey, I was going to say La California. Hey, Richard, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Professor. I just have a question. When Fox News lets Trump come on and gives erroneous numbers about what's happening with the virus, and then making suggestions about people going back to work,
right.
Can Fox News be sued if someone listens to that and contracts the virus and then passes away?
I doubt it, because they didn't say it. Trump said it. Yeah, another thing that people need to flag is that last night, apparently on Fox News, Trump said that he was going. I think he was talking to Sean Hannity, but whoever the host was, they said, well, you've got to get entitlements under control. And Trump was, oh, yeah, we're going to be cutting entitlements, or words to that effect. You can find it on Twitter. It's all over the place. And today he's saying, I never said I'd cut Social Security. Well, yeah, that's what entitlements are. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, period. Full stop. He wasn't talking, Bette Midler was tweeting about this. He wasn't talking about his entitlement to sit on a gold toilet. He was talking about Social Security. So, we've got this thing figured out, Donald. But in terms of, holding Trump News to account, the best way you can hold Fox News to account is to inform your friends who watch Fox that they should probably go over to MediaMatters.com and fact check some of the stuff that's on Fox. Richard, thanks a lot for the call. It is an interesting question. I'm pretty sure the answer is no. And I'm not sure we ever want to get into a day when the media are, getting sued. Although Trump's doing that right now.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Trump is suing both the Washington Post and the New York Times for defamation. So we may be going into an area where the media is in the crosshairs. We'll see. And welcome back. Lowell in Salem, Oregon. Hey, Lowell, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I wanted to find out, what the median or what the net worth of the average superdelegate is. And the reason I'm looking into this is, our representation economically is not very good for the poor of the population. So I have an idea to make superdelegates more representative. Make it so that to qualify as a superdelegate, you have a median net worth of under $1,000.
You're not going to have any superdelegates then. I mean, the whole idea of
40% of the population has zero or negative net worth.
Oh, I know that. But my point is how, what a superdelegate is and how they came to be. The idea is that the Democratic Party is basically a club. It's an organization, like a fraternal organization. It's a club. And the people who have committed their lives to the club, the people who have worked their butts off for the club, the people who've spent 30, 40 years helping build that club, they deserve to have a little bit more say than the guy who joined last week. And so the superdelegates are your previously elected Democratic presidents, your previously elected Democratic governors, your sitting Democratic governors, your previously elected Democratic members of the House and Senate, your sitting members of the House and Senate who are Democrats. Those are your superdelegates. And,
as well as lobbyists.
Well, some of them have become lobbyists. In fact, an awful lot of them, your former members of the House in particular, and some of your former members of the Senate, when they retire, they find themselves with these $1 million and $2 million a year jobs as lobbyists, and people, love talking to them because, hey, you used to be a member of Congress, and they still have a lot of influence on their friends. But it's not that the DNC goes out and says, okay, you're a lobbyist, we're going to make you a superdelegate. To the best of my knowledge, there are no superdelegates who were never elected to public office, were never anything other than just a lobbyist. So, I get the critique and the criticism, but I think it's scrambling cause and effect. So I can understand this whole idea of, hey, this is our club, and we want to honor the people who have given their lives to the club and give them a little more voice. But I also get that, it's not just a club, the Democratic Party. It's also a political party that is supposed to be representing, roughly half the population of the United States. And as such, do we really want to have, a quasi-oligarchy within our party? And the Republicans long ago said, no, they don't want that. And I'm of the opinion that we should do away with superdelegates altogether. But, I don't run the party. So
thanks.
Is it making sense? Okay. Well,
yeah, it just, I was figuring, to try to, skirt their insistence on keeping superdelegates,
right,
but to make them more representative of the population.
Yeah, but then you would be bringing in a new kind of delegate who isn't what are now referred to. In fact, they don't even like the word superdelegate anymore. It got such a bad name in 2016. They now call themselves something else, designated delegates or something. There's some phrase that they use now to say, I'm not a superdelegate. I'm the former governor of Michigan, or that kind of thing. But I get your point, Lowell, and it's a big problem that it's not just the bottom 40% of Americans. The bottom 90% of Americans have very little representation. If you look at the legislative outcomes, this was the study that was done at University of Columbia some time back. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. We have a new video up over at thomhartmann.com for people who are regular supporters of our program, and the essence of it is, I use a couple of examples. There's hundreds of them out there. In one case, Alabama is preparing to execute a man who was not guilty of the crime that he committed with a relatively high level of certainty, but still they're gonna kill this guy, an African American. And the other story out of New York State, where the police officers hogtied this guy, elbows behind him, tied his legs together, and then threw him down a flight of stairs, mangled his face. He looked he was totally beaten. 12 hours later, he commits suicide in his cell. How is it possible that our prisons do this kind of stuff? Because the 13th Amendment says that slavery is still legal in the United States. You have no rights if you've been convicted of a crime. We need to amend the Constitution. Check it out at thomhartmann.com. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Jesse in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Hey, Jesse, I understand Pennsylvania just identified their first for sure case of coronavirus. Just read that a few minutes ago.
I did not even know that, but that's not surprising, although very bad news. Thanks for letting me know. I'm calling because I am a Bernie and Elizabeth supporter. My dream ticket would be the two of those. Don't care who the president would be, but I guess it has to be Bernie now. But you've talked about this topic before, about how the word socialism is being used by the right wing to scare people.
And has been since the 1930s.
Yes, agreed. And by the way, I've read 2 of your books, The Supreme Court and the one on guns. Both are great.
Thank you.
And my response when people bring that up is, I say, well, so do you hate the United States military? Because that's the biggest socialist program in the history of the world. Yeah. And then also our police departments and our fire departments and our school teachers and our public roads. And it just seems like a simple turning point to say to people, so you see, it's not that you actually hate socialism. It's that you hate certain types of socialism because you love the military, you love the police. So what types of socialism do you hate or are you scared of? And I think that's a way to draw the conversation. Would you agree with that?
I do, and I've been saying for some time, and I've said this on the air many times over the last 15 years, I look forward to the day when a progressive Democratic candidate has that word thrown at them, as happens in every race all across the country. and stands up and says, well, I just came here to this debate driving on our socialist roads. My car was safe because of the socialist highway transportation rules. I was safe because of our socialist police department. I was not afraid to leave my home because I know if it catches on fire, the socialist fire department will put it out. And I was able to engage in this debate and read the rules of the debate because I attended socialist public school. So which part of socialism is it, sir or madam, that you are opposed to? Something like that.
I've heard that before, and it's brilliant, and I wish Bernie and Elizabeth would say something like that in response. That would be a great way to address it. So thanks, Tom. Have a great weekend.
You're welcome. Thank you. And Bernie, by the way, Bernie has said variations on this program probably on 100 occasions. It's just been 5 years since he's been on, so a lot of people haven't heard him say it. But Maine, I know you've been listening for a long time. You probably have. Maine and Chicago, you're on the air. What's up?
Yeah, Tom, I would like to know, is there a way that I could sue the city of Chicago for the racial discrimination of redlining of the past 52 years of the west and south sides of Chicago, and to the point where they've taken TIF monies and other things and have built up this north and northwest side and have done nothing. I mean, if you went up to the Sears Tower or one of those Hancock buildings, if you look west and south, you'll see it's barren. But if you look north and northwest, you'll see sky cranes everywhere.
Right.
And even now, Lightfoot, the Mayor Lightfoot is holding $1 billion of TIF monies and stuff. I guess she's trying to decide if she's going to send it to the north side too, and still leave the west and south sides barren. And can we not sue them for the city of Chicago for the racial discrimination of the west and south sides was started right after the King's assassination?
Yeah, there's two issues here, Maine. There's redlining, which is actually a practice by commercial banks, where they would draw red lines around mostly neighborhoods, mostly black neighborhoods, and just say, and tell their loan officers, you may not write a loan into this neighborhood. That's the old-fashioned redlining. And then there's basically, what I suppose you could call gentrification, which are decisions made by the city about where to put, public transit stops when you've got a subway or an L system, an elevated system like you've got in Chicago. What neighborhoods are going to get the kinds of investment that are going to cause those neighborhoods to really blossom and grow versus what kind of neighborhoods are going to get neglected. And that's more amenable to political pressure. I don't think that you can sue based on that at all. But what you can do is get involved in your city council races and start supporting the people on your city council who are big advocates of trying to revive parts of the city that have been constantly under stress for a long, long time as a result largely of racial discrimination, and oppose those members of the city council who may simply be representing the wealthy white suburbs and are willing to trash the poorer suburbs just to grab more of the pie. To the best of my knowledge, those are the only ways to do it. If you have evidence that a bank is doing it, there's a law against that. Did I answer your question, man?
Because this has been going on for 52 years.
Oh, it's been going on longer than that, I'll tell you. But yes, absolutely. So if you know of a bank that's doing it, nail them. And if you know of a city that's doing it, get involved in your local politics. Maine, it's always great to hear from you. Thanks for the call. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's coming up on 28 minutes past the hour on Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program, helping you win the water cooler wars. Happy Friday. Let's call this $5 Friday. If you can make a $5 contribution every month. I'll get back to that in just a second. But today is Louise's birthday. Don't tell her I told you. And it got us thinking, actually, about her birthday. Two of our kids, one is a nurse practitioner, the other is a physician's assistant, and they're both primary health care people. They're both, working in one works in a hospital and the other works in a doctor's office. And And we were going to have Louise's birthday party at a local Ethiopian restaurant because it's our favorite food as a family. And we just decided there's 3 cases of coronavirus now in Portland. And they announced on Oregon Public Broadcasting this morning that they can't do testing of anybody who is not already hospitalized because there are so few kits that the Trump administration has given to the state that they literally don't have enough. But they think that there's between 300 and 1,500 cases of coronavirus floating around inside Portland right now. So, my 2 daughters, who are the public health people, started this chain in text message saying to all of us, the whole family, let's not meet at a restaurant or any public place. Let's all meet at one of our kids' houses and do a potluck, which is what we're going to do tonight for Louise's birthday, which then got me thinking. In fact, I talked to Louise about it this morning. Netflix and Hulu and companies like that, their stock, is probably going to go up over time. Because what do people do when they're staying at home? They watch Netflix and stuff like that, which then got me thinking, most of us, many of us anyway, we're paying for cable TV or we're paying for satellite TV. We may be paying for a special for another, extra little bit on that to get, things like Netflix or Apple, Amazon Prime, whatever it may be. Yeah, those are typically $7 a month, $8 a month, $10 a month, $12 a month. If you think that's a reasonable cost for entertainment, isn't it a reasonable cost to send in $5 a month to keep Free Speech TV on the air? So, as a happy birthday to Louise and as doing our civic duty here, helping keep good, progressive, high-quality progressive programming on the air and keeping this show going and keeping this network going, please consider right now calling 877-378-8669 and committing on $5 Friday to $5 a month. Just have them ding your credit card until you tell them to stop. It will be such a good thing. It's not an immediate burst of money for Free Speech TV, although, maybe lots and lots of people will do this, but probably not. It's not going to be like millions of dollars, but it'll be thousands, and it adds up, and it's a big deal. So please consider calling now. If you want to give more than $5, there are a bunch of premiums. With a $20 gift, you get the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the car magnet, sort of like a bumper sticker that says "I'm voting, are you?" And also has the Free Speech TV logo on it. With a $50 gift, you get the Just Effing Vote canvas tote bag. With a $75 gift, you get the Tag You're It Thom Hartmann mug. With a $120 gift, we've got 3 options. One is an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, brand new book just out. The second is the Just Effing Vote t-shirt in the size of your choice. And the third option is the Free Speech TV t-shirt. Ask me about Free Speech TV. Any one of those 3 things, your choice for a $120 gift today. With a $240 gift, we get the coronavirus free. You can't transmit, there are viruses that go over the internet, but they're not this kind of virus, right? With $240, you get the virtual meet and greet, where we will get together online, hang out, have an off-the-record conversation. With a $300 gift, you've got the official Free Speech TV Get Out the Vote pack that has a bunch of postcards that you can send to friends and family, introducing them to various programs on Free Speech TV. You get the car magnet, the bumper sticker kind of thing that says, encourages people to vote. I'm voting, are you? The Just Effing Vote tote bag, and an autographed copy of my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, which is a pretty important book right now, by the way, and you're going to want to read it, and you're going to want to share it with your friends. And with a $360 gift, you get the complete Hidden History book set of all 3 of the Hidden History books that are out right now, all autographed by the author. That would be me. The Hidden History of Guns and the Second Amendment, The Hidden History of the Supreme Court, The Hidden History of the War on Voting, and suitable for gifts or whatever you'd like. And with a $1,000 gift, you can come to Portland We're probably going to be scheduling these things a few months down the road when things settle down and we've got enough testing kits here in the state that we can figure out what's going on, and as our airports start to recover when things get under control. But you can get in line for that right now with a $1,000 gift, because things will return to normal, I think, probably by the late summer. So anyhow, call now, 877-378-8669, and say happy birthday to Louise. Thanks. Coming up this week on The Science Revolution, is the coronavirus about to show us the cost of not having Medicare for all? Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter, public health professor at George Washington University Medical School Dr. Lena Wen, and author of The Coming Plague, Lori Garrett, all join me for the most up-to-date information on the now pandemic coronavirus. Don't miss it, and check it out wherever fine podcasts are available. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Thom Hartmann here with you. Dennis in Bergenfield, New Jersey. Hey, Dennis, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, I want to talk to you about trade today. So,
sure.
I've heard you say before on the show that, South Korea, Western Europe, the United States, got rich off of protectionism. Basically, the way I understand it is these countries employed local people, paid them, relatively decent wages eventually, and at the same time, they were exporting goods to the rest of the world. And
Dennis, I'm having a really hard time understanding you. It sounds like you've got your thumb over the microphone on your phone or something. Could you do whatever you have to do to sound clear and say it again?
Basically, my question is, how did protectionism make South Korea, the United States? How did it make these countries wealthy?
Sure. Well, to start out, where this all really started was in Holland in the 1400s. And the Dutch identified specific industries that they wanted to grow, and where they had what they felt to be an advantage, what would be called comparative advantage by some economists, and that built Holland, and it built the Dutch trading companies. And then King Henry VII, as I recall, borrowed this in the 1500s, in the late 1500s, and it was referred to as the Tudor model. And when it started, England literally was thatched huts and dirt roads, and they had no industry at all, and everything of any quality was imported. And so they started saying, okay, we're going to protect domestic industries. We're going to not allow the imports of things that compete with things that can and should be manufactured in the United Kingdom. And we are going to subsidize the export of things that we can manufacture and sell to other countries. And that built England into this giant, dynamic powerhouse that was able to rule the world in the late 1600s and throughout the 1700s. And then in 1791, Alexander Hamilton introduced his 11-point plan for American manufacturers, which is what it's called. You can read it in the whole first chapter of my book, Rebooting the American Dream, is about this, and it quotes that I reprint Hamilton's entire thing. And Hamilton said, we need to have duties on things that we want to have manufactured in the United States. There are other things that there's no reason to have them manufactured in the United States. You don't want to have a carved sandalwood industry in the United States. That's an industry in Thailand because they got a lot of sandalwood there, but it's not, so we don't need to have tariffs on sandalwood coming in from Thailand. But on the other hand, we want to have a steel industry in this country. Say what?
Flat screen TVs, that's a good industry.
Yeah, well, pretty much anything. I mean, there are a bunch of different kind of levels of reasons for selective protectionism, and this is why there's over 22,000 product categories on the website of the U.S. Department of Commerce. The product categories that were used historically to define tariffs, and tariffs on goods manufactured in the United States, tariffs on those goods from other countries that competed with American manufacturers from the time of the George Washington administration up until the Reagan administration averaged in the high 20s or low 30% range. And that built this country.
There's some things that, let me just finish this thought, Dennis, and then I'll toss it to you. So there are some things that you definitely want manufactured in the United States. For example, we don't have the ability in the United States right now to manufacture 5G technology. The whole world is going to 5G, and it's going to come down to two companies, Huawei in China or the company in Finland, Nokia, I think it is, and one of the big cell phone companies up in Finland or Denmark. And we're not even a player in that game because we haven't had trade barriers in that regard. The Trump administration is yelling about this. It's one of the few things they're doing right. So we can't build cruise missiles without chips from China right now. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to do with national security where you definitely want to have tariffs. Then there's things where you say, okay, since NAFTA and permanent normal trade relations with China, which happened in 92 and 99, I think it was, and Bernie's made this point on this program dozens of times. We lost, in the first 10 years after those two trade deals, we lost over 50,000 factories, not jobs, factories. And none of them have come back. And why? Well, people are, chasing cheap labor and cheap manufacturing, and they're also chasing manufacturing in countries that don't have environmental standards like ours. We need to be bringing those jobs back. So that's protectionism for the purpose of having jobs. You just need to be smart about it and selective about it. The problem with the way that the Trump administration is doing it is that they're doing it by administrative fiat. There is a loophole in our trade laws which say that the president, during a time of emergency, he has to declare an emergency, can selectively put tariffs on things. Say we go to war with China, then you'd want to put a tariff on anything that, coming in from China so that you're denying China, the economic benefit, et cetera. The president can make these emergency tariffs. And all of the tariffs that Trump has imposed, all of them have been emergency tariffs. And the problem done by executive order. And the problem with that is that those tariffs only last as long as Trump is in office. And so no American company that is manufacturing right now in China or Malaysia or Indonesia or wherever it may be, no American company that's manufacturing overseas is going to say, gee, Trump just put a tariff. It's going to hurt us for a couple of years. I think we'll invest $500 million in building a factory in Michigan. They're not going to do that because they know that as soon as Trump is gone, things are going to go back to the way they were in all probability. So the proper way to do it is through Congress, through legislation. And of course, the Republicans haven't had the power to do that. You've got a lot of Democrats who are opposed to tariffs, although tariffs have historically been the Democratic Party's strong suit. That got blown up in 92 when Clinton embraced NAFTA. And now the Democratic Party ever since then has been kind of schizophrenic. So you've got some people like Bernie Sanders or Sherrod Brown in the Democratic Party who are strong supporters of tariffs and protectionism. You've got other people in the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, for example, who is a strong opponent of it and thinks that, we should not have high tariffs on things in order to bring back jobs or protect national security. So that's the landscape as I know it. Dennis, to you. You have specific questions?
And I think it's fair to say that industrialization wouldn't have happened without protectionism.
That's correct.
And this is what made the West so great and powerful,
That's correct. And in fact, let me give you an example. And I got this from Hu John Chang's book, Kicking the Ladder. And Chang is a British economist. He's a brilliant guy. He's been on this program, but it's probably been 8 years. And he wrote this book, Kicking the Ladder. And in it, he's from South Korea. And he points out that in 1956, South Korea, and in fact, President Obama used the same statistic in a speech he gave in Kenya. In 1956, South Korea had the same per capita, and Dennis, I'm going to drop the call here because your phone is making funny noises, but South Korea had the same per capita economic output, or GDP, that Kenya did. So you've got a poor country, although Kenya, relative to the rest of Africa, is relatively wealthy, but you've got a poor country in Africa, poor country in Southeast Asia. They both had the average annual income per person was around $80 per year. The major export in 1956 to South Korea was human hair for wigs and fish. And so when General Park, as I recall was his name, took over South Korea in a military coup and imposed basically a military dictatorship, he said, we are going to build South Korea. And he put like 100% tariff on imported cars. He put just huge tariffs on everything. He started a nationwide campaign to say, if you're using a foreign product, you're not a loyal Korean. So people were shunned who were driving foreign cars or were smoking foreign cigarettes or were wearing clothes made outside of South Korea. At the same time, he borrowed an enormous amount of money, drove up his nation's debt hugely, and used that money to subsidize a company called Mitsubishi, and actually several different companies. These are now the big Korean companies that were originally in the business. Their principal business was exporting fish, and subsidized them to get into manufacturing. And over a 20-year period, to quote Chang, it was as if South Korea went from becoming Kenya to becoming Switzerland, because South Korea now has a higher standard of living than we do here in the United States. And it was done exclusively in 2 decades through protectionism. And if you look at when we undid protectionism in 93, when Clinton became president and signed NAFTA, actually I think he signed NAFTA in 94, 95, but anyhow, when he signed NAFTA, and then in 99, as I recall, when we granted China permanent, whatever it was, protected nation status, most favored nation status. When we did those two things, over the next 2 decades, we lost 50,000 factories. We essentially deindustrialized. And so when, back in the 80s, more than almost two-thirds, more than 60% of Americans were, quote, in the middle class. As of last year, that number fell below 50% for the first time ever. So, in answer to your question, yes, I'm a fan of very carefully calibrated, well done, thought out, legislatively enforced tariffs and protectionism and subsidies for industries that are essential industries. We should have been, over the last 15 years, subsidizing the development of 5G technology, for example, right here in the United States. But instead, it's all, it's the free market. The free market will take care of everything. Right. The free market has a lot of problems. I'm not saying, that the government should be dictating absolutely everything that's being done by industry or anything even remotely close to that. But we have a 200-year history of making, at the level of Congress, decisions about what our economy is going to look like. And we need to be going back to that. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It's 45 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls in just a moment. It's Anything Goes Friday here on the Thom Hartmann Program, home of the political revolution. And welcome back. Jeff in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
Hey, good morning, Tom. Thanks for taking my call. It was really good seeing you and hearing you last Friday at Powell's.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for showing up, Jeff.
Yeah, they sold out of your new book, but I did get a signed copy of The Crash of 2016. So Thanks again. And yeah, well, wow, what a difference a week has made politically since last Friday. Yep. And that's why I'm calling. On the TV coverage Tuesday night, amidst all the cheerleading for Biden, I did overhear at least one objective comment. I think it may have been David Plouffe or Robert Gibbs, I'm not sure, but someone said, hey, if this is a baseball game, we're only at the end of the 4th inning. Joe Biden just had a hell of a 4th inning, but there's still a lot of baseball left to be played. So continuing with that metaphor, Tom, I might even say it's getting close to the last 3 innings. But this coming Tuesday and the following Tuesday are going to be crucial. So I believe Bernie has a choice to make. Does he just keep swinging away as he has been and hope for the best? Or does he recognize that the other team has made adjustments, and to get the momentum back, Team Bernie may need to shake things up and add to our lineup? So number one, Tom, I like your caller Nicholas's and the idea that you've adopted from him of Bernie naming a shadow cabinet that reflects his ideals and respect for diversity.
And I think Biden should do the same thing. Let us know what you're thinking.
Sure.
How you'd run the country, and with whom.
And number two, I think really Bernie should say to Elizabeth Warren behind the scenes, I need your endorsement as soon as possible. She's got good infrastructure.
I'm sure he has already said that to her, Jeff.
But here's the deal that if Bernie's team may persuade him to say, I'm going to make you, Elizabeth, my running mate. And you're going to have the opportunity to be the 21st century version of Frances Perkins. You'll be the architect and overseer of the Green New Deal. If she somehow turns him down, despite that, I think it's a JFK kind of offer. Ask now what your country can do for you. What can you do for the country?
I completely agree with you, Jeff. I think it would completely change the game if he was able to announce that his running mate was going to be Elizabeth Warren. Whether she's willing to go along with that or not, I don't know. Essentially Rachel Maddow asked him that if he would consider her as a running mate, and he whiffed at that ball. And I thought he should have said, "Of course I would. I would consider her." Instead he said, I'd consider her for many different positions in my administration or something like that. And I was sitting there going, oh, but.
Well, it's not too late. He could have a change of mind. But if somehow Elizabeth turns him down, maybe he could turn to Stacey Abrams or Kamala Harris to do that. And get out on the campaign trail with them. I do think he needs to try and change the game.
I'm guessing that Harris and Abrams are holding out for Joe Biden. That's my guess.
You think so?
I think so. I do.
Well, I think, coincidentally, I think it was a couple of months ago on the show that, people were calling and saying that Bernie should reach out to Stacey Abrams and see if she'll be his VP. And then shortly thereafter, it leaked that Biden actually did that.
Right.
So, maybe she turned Biden down.
We don't know, and we don't know if that was actually a true story or if it was just a trial balloon, or was an attempt to get publicity by his campaign, or we just don't know because it was never verified by Stacey Abrams herself. Jeff, thanks for the call. Great minds think alike. I agree. We'll be back. It's 10 minutes before the hour. Hey, did you know that Hillary Clinton actually won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Florida in the 2016 election? It's on page 92 of my new book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. Nicholas in Mexico. Hey, Nicholas, what's up?
Tom, I'm actually calling you from Lexington, Kentucky via a Mexican phone. Don't ask me how that works. This is so bizarre. Your previous caller, I think, just answered a quick question I had to you, because people all over the internet have been saying, have you listened to Thom Hartmann? And he's been talking about, what in the world? Tom's lost his mind if he's talking about me. It's always the other way around. I'm talking about you. But I think your caller just answered the question. Something about the release of a cabinet.
Yeah, I've said this a couple times, over the last week or so, that I think
I've been traveling.
Yeah, I got this idea from you. I didn't know that AMLO had done it. You were down in Mexico when he did, and I said, AMLO announced his shadow cabinet, and it was a turning point for his political campaign. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Nicholas. And Bernie should do the same thing. Yeah.
Yes. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, and I assume the answer is yes, you read, surely, Thomas Friedman's opinion piece in the New York Times about exactly this.
No, I did not read that. I tend not to read Friedman. He pisses me off so much that I just...
He does me too.
I have to regulate my blood pressure.
Boy, do I understand. He pissed me off too. I nearly dropped the coffee I was drinking. The entire opinion piece was about the need to pick a cabinet and to announce it before the election.
Wow.
The entire piece. Well, I thought Tom probably just lost his coffee over this too.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check it out.
I think he's listening to your problem, to your program.
Or somebody who advises him is, which is probably far more likely. But yeah, could be.
More likely.
I mean, sometimes he gets it so right, and sometimes he gets it so wrong.
Yep.
His whole olive tree and the Lexus thing just made me crazy. But anyhow, but he's a smart guy, and God bless him. Nicholas, I got to move along, but thank you for the call, and always good talking with you. Susan in Oroville, Washington. Hey, Susan, what's up?
Hi, Tom. I'm just curious why they can't test for the coronavirus by just taking a smear preparation of sputum and look at it under a microscope.
Because viruses are so small, unlike bacteria, you can't see them in a microscope. You'd have to use a scanning electron microscope, which is how we're getting these initial photographs of this virus, that look like this little ball with all the little sucker cups around the edges of it. Those are scanning electron microscope pictures. You cannot see, there's no microscope made that would allow you to see a virus, or probably, or at the very least, the vast majority of viruses. So,
okay, thank you for your answer.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And my understanding is that these test kits aren't actually testing for the presence of the virus. They're testing for the presence of the antibodies, which are much larger molecules and therefore easily detected and biologically active. The antibodies that our body produces in response to exposure to the virus. And that's typically, how those kind of things are done. I believe that's how the flu virus test is done also. It's not looking for the flu, it's looking for the antibodies. But I could be wrong on that one, so don't quote me. Anyhow, Mike in Napperville, Washington. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind?
Yeah, Tom, my wife found this site today. It's called projects538.com. It's an endorsement point system.
Okay.
And the point system they use looks like it's all superdelegates. And it's just real interesting, the numbers on there. Biden has 510 points. Bernie has 70. In fact, they have Bloomberg ahead of Biden as far as Democratic National Committee endorsements.
Well,
Bloomberg has more than Bernie.
I just tried to search.
I think the fix is in.
Yeah, I just tried to search for this, and I'm not finding anything. But if you look, if you want to see the, you can go over to Real Clear Politics, and you can look at their polls. It's a long URL. It's realclearpolitics.com/ePolls/2020/president/Democratic_delegate_count HTML. It's all right there. But I just because you found one website, I wouldn't freak out yet, Mike. Mike, thanks a lot for the call. Dave in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Hey, Dave, what's on your mind?
Hey, yeah, I was just calling in. I feel like you've been a little tough on people who are afraid of the idea of socialism, and I was just going to see what you thought. I think that Bernie has been victim of mismarketing, if anything. I mean, if he were to come out and say, hey, I want a stronger welfare state, I think people would be in favor of that. I think when you use the word socialism, people are scared, and probably rightfully so. I mean, with the hard traditional definition of socialism, I mean, Karl Marx used it interchangeably with communism in the Communist Manifesto.
I know. Dave, I understand and I agree with you. And this is an absolute reality for anybody who's over 50. But when you poll people who are under 50, what you find is that they prefer the word socialism to the word capitalism. So, but I don't disagree. I mean, it would be. I think that Bernie would be in a much stronger position if he had never branded himself a socialist, but instead, like Elizabeth Warren or like Sherrod Brown, had branded himself as simply a progressive. Or, in my opinion, I think the very best way he could brand himself would be to say that he's here to complete the work that Franklin Roosevelt started, and he's going to finish the New Deal. Right. And, I mean, that's how I think he should be marketing it. But I don't run Bernie's campaign. I mean, I had this conversation with Larry Cohen yesterday.
I'm just saying when people call in and they're scared of the idea of socialism, and of course you bring up, well, you're on a socialist road and socialist this and that. Well, that's not necessarily what they're thinking in their mind.
No, I know that.
Kind of rightfully so.
I know that, and I'm just trying to educate them and trying to lower the temperature a little bit, because Bernie's not going to stop calling himself a democratic socialist, and Republicans are not going to stop calling him a socialist/communist. So, I'm trying to do some marginal education around the edges. But Dave, I get your point, and you said it very well. Thanks so much for being with us today and all this week. It's been a fascinating week. A lot has happened in our political world. We'll pick up Monday where we left off. And Tuesday, we've got another bunch of states, voting in the primaries. And I think the debate is Friday. It's the 15th, whatever day that is of next week. So it's going to be another big week. So stick around, and don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires you. So get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you on Monday.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
So it's the last minute of our show, and you've got a little 10-minute window here where you can make a contribution to the Thom Hartmann Program and Free Speech TV by calling now 877-378-8669. It's Louise's birthday. You could say happy birthday, and they will pass along that message to her. And anything you'd like. We're calling it $5 Friday. We're asking for $5 contributions on an ongoing basis. Make a commitment, something that we can plan on, that we can budget around. It's a great way if you've never contributed to Free Speech TV to kind of introduce yourself to Free Speech TV. They don't sell or distribute the mailing list or anything like that. This will not go anywhere beyond Free Speech TV. I won't have access to it. Nobody does. They're very secure about this. So it's safe. It's easy. Give them a call, 877-378-8669. And if you say happy birthday, Louise, they'll pass that along to her. I know they will. So please call now.
We say fight back!
Cuban Women Confront the Future. That's an interview with Vilma Espen. Vilma Espen was the president of the Federation.